Ahmad Wa, Aniwa, Jerusalem, stand face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatha Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh, Asherah, Lethan the Nawab, Hashabeth, Bashalawam, the Wadi, Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the Sabbath and peace. Thank you, so be it. The Alima Asherai Makhad, Psalms 121. Y'all can't read everything. Anya Rayam Aimye Haryam Mayan Yabawa Zorya Yabawa Mayahu Shai Shamayim Warataza La Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala Yanawam Shashramarka Hana La Yanawam Wala Yashan Shashramar Yashrala Yahweh Shamaria Yahweh Tazalid Ayo Yam Yawamam Hashamash La Hakaya Wayarak La Balayala Yahweh Yashmaria Makab Ra Yashma Napashe Yahweh Yashma Habalakya Wapa Ayat My Fa Wa Aid I Willam Basham Yahweh Shaykh Wada Aman.
Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shemaya Sharela, Hero Israel. Shemaya Sharela, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Akad. Shemaya Sharela, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Akad. Shemaya Sharela, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Akad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abinawe Shabbat Shemayim Kodash Hayye Shemke Yahweh Malakwaf Ke Thaba'a Ratazawanke Hayye Aisha Baraktaze Ke Bashemayim Lethem Lanawe Lakham Yawam Zed Wasalak Lanawe Kabawat Nawe Kasalak Nawe Kabawat Yanawe Wala Abiyanawe O Nasayon Above Hawashinawe Murad Kaya Laka Hamalakwa Wa Allah Wa Thaparat Why Walam Aman.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner therefore pray, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Ha'ai Rama tells us the Ten Commandments. La'ad Yahayim Lakad Alahayim Akarim Alpanyat La'ad Daishad Lakad Paso Wala'ad Daibadam La'ad Talakwaka Shamwa Yahweh Alahayaka Lashua Zakar Af Hayawam Hashabeth Lakodashwa Kabad Abiyaka Wa Amaka La'ab Taratazak La'ab Dana'ab La'ab Daganab La'ab Dainad Shakur La'ab Dachamad Ko Asherat Lara'ika Amen.
Exodus 22. I am the Lord thy God, which I brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and holiday. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. You shall well be seated. Barakati Yahweh by Shemi Hawishai, Asheranath, and now Pari Agapim, Thwad Aman. La Yahweh by Shemi Hawishai of Yashar. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the fruit of the vine, thank you so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. And Magwa, Panuwa Yerushalaim, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakati Yahweh, Haggadah, Rakawam, Yabiyer, Wanawa Elyawan, Malak, Shau, Shamayim, Waratiza, Wakod, Dabarim, Kayayim, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawe, Arawanawe, Ahamnawe, Apala, Yawa Aitiza, Yahawashai, Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Bartazawan, Aimka, Yasha'ala, Izarnawa, Bana, Wasa, Yasha'ala, O Nanawa, Yam Yam, Aitha, Kayawamyam, Makwadam, Babakusha, Shalak, Mike Allah, Watazwadak, Alahayim, La, Maganawa, Rapharnawa, Washamak, Alnawa, Baikwa, Shalak, Haruka, Shal, Yahushai, Lanawa, Lalamadnawa, Rabiam, Kakamath, Abawana, Wada Aip, Shada Barka Basham Yahushai the Wadatham Yed Waiwalam Aman. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, and wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel, most high, we beg you right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, always and forever, so be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherat, Nathan Lenawa, Hatawarat. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherat, Nathan Lenawa, Award, Lara Awat. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherat, Nathan Lenawa, Quran, Hayel, La Korab, Ha'ain. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherat, Nathan Lenawa, Hasheman, Zayath, Lamashak, Yasha'ala. Shabwa, be seated. Could you prop that? Thanks. Prop that. Thanks. All right. So, Shalom, Yasharala. All right. So, shalom, everyone that's here in Philadelphia. Shalom, everybody watching us on live stream, and shalom, everybody listening in on teleconference. Welcome to Hayashala Kanas, or the Congregation of Israel, where we teach that the descendants of slaves, as well as the indigenous and peoples, make up the southern and northern kingdoms of the 12 tribes of Israel, and that we fall into a lower state politically, economically, religiously, because we broke the laws of God found in the Bible given to us by Moses. It become out of this lower state that we fall into by keeping these commandments we broke through following Jesus Christ as our example. But as it's written, not according to the religion of Christianity that's being pushed in the world, but according to, like it says in the scriptures in St. John 7:38, he that believeth on me, as the scripture hath said. That's the Christ we're talking about. And one way we do that is by keeping the Sabbath holy from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, just as he would, just as he does. Remember, the scriptures tell us Jesus Christ the same yesterday and today and forever. So I don't want to refer to our Lord and Savior in the past tense, but in the present tense. And as our particular branch of Christ does, we go through a regular Sabbath service. We're back in the Old Testament. We're going to be wrapping up First Kings. Get the last two chapters of First Kings, which we're talking about the Northern Kingdom in particular, but also the Southern Kingdom as well. When we get to the next chapter, the kings that they had that were reigning, namely King Ahab that was reigning in the Northern Kingdom, and King Josaphat who was reigning in the Southern Kingdom. They're going to be the focal points, as well as we're going to read in this first chapter a brother of the Northern Kingdom named Naboth who had an inheritance. I know we've been talking about inheritance these last couple classes and services, going into how inheritance would be handed down and be kept within certain family lines when it comes to certain plots of land, right? That being established back in the time of Joshua and Caleb. You go into the history, right? So we read this chapter, this first chapter, 1 Kings 21, is going to touch on that subject matter. So yeah, my name is Naboth Zerubbabel. I have the pleasure of going through the service with you guys today. All praise be to the Most High in Christ by way of the Holy Spirit. You can write down for your notes that according to the Gregorian calendar, it would be March 9th, 2024. And according to our calendar, let me see if somebody in the chat can actually chime in real quick, since we got another new moon coming up this evening. What will be today's date? We're in the 12th month, but now what day are we in? Because even if you don't know, you should be able to count. If we can go back to not only when the last new moon was, but we can go back to the days of Day of Judas as well as Day of Purim. We can even count from those days as well. Let me see if somebody can tell us what day of the month we're in according to the Hebrew calendar. So we know we're in the 12th month, but now what day?
The last day.
Yeah, of course.
Is it 30?
It looks like we got listen with your mind. Got 12th month, 29th day. Okay.
29?
Anyone else have a different answer? Remember, that's a key part of us knowing the truth and knowing about the commandments. We have to be able to tell folks what we do, how we do it. Well, first, who we are as a people, what we do, right? How we go about doing it, and like we're talking about now, when we do it. Right? So we got to have the when locked down when it comes to who we are as a people. As the scriptures say, some days are high days, the Most High hallowed, other days are ordinary days. So you better know what those high days are. Even when it comes to ordinary days, be able to keep track according to how we'll tell time. Because this is going to be the norm in the kingdom, right? Okay, looks like I got a 21st day guess as well.
What day is it?
So let's see. What's your answer?
30.
You say it's the 30th day?
Why not? 30, 31.
All right, so here's what I would do, right? What day do we keep other days of Purim? We know it's at the end of the week, right? But which week? At least that's a way of doing it. What week in February do we keep the days of Purim? Anyone has any idea?
Hmm. 22nd to 23rd.
Right. So the second to the last week of February, right?
The new moon was on the 9th.
So if the so if the 22nd and 23rd, Thursday and Friday, were days of Purim, what day of the month was the 22nd at sundown? What day of the month was the 23rd at sundown? Because we know the 21st was day of Judas. So the 21st is always the 12th. It would have been the 12th month and the 13th day. The 22nd at sundown, 23rd would have been the 14th and 15th day, right? So that being the case, you could use the 23rd at sundown as the 15th day as a marker, right? Now, if I jump down from the 23rd, if I say I pull up a calendar, I jump down 8 days to the 1st. That would have put me at the 22nd, right? Which is 7 days later, right? And if I jump down again from the 1st of March to the 8th at sundown, right? I add again, so that puts me at 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22. Then I go down again, 22. If I add on another week, that's 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29th. So from the 23rd to the 1st, I go from the 15th day to the 22nd day. From the 1st to the 8th, I go from the 21st to the 29th. So listen with your mind was correct. Once the sun set on the 8th of March, it would have been the 29th day. I usually use the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd. I usually use those days which mark a week since the month began to count. Usually, whatever you have the first day of the month, when you count a week later, that's from the first, you go down, you count 7, that's the 8th. You add another 7, that's 15. You add another 7, that's the 22nd. You add another 7, that's the 29th. You just remember those 4. You can pretty much figure out where you're at in the week as long as you know where the new moon is. You can figure out which day of the week that you're in. Just use one of those key dates. At least that's what I do. It's an easier way to remember it, so that you're not scratching your head every month trying to figure out what day of the month is and reinventing the wheel. So it is the 12th month and the 29th day. And then when the sun goes down tonight, we'll be celebrating the 13th new month. Well, at least that's what it would be according to the time zone and the region that we're in here in the Northeast. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, do we have anything such thing as a short month?
It varies. They're not always the same amount of days.
Oh, like 29, 30 days, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have here, it looks like the elder says, where we have 6 months with 29 and 6 with 30. Unless there's an extra month added, we would have now to make sure everything lines up with the seasons. Yeah, that's correct. That's why when we talk about the lunar calendar, we say it has on average 29 and a half days, right? So the lunar month is on average 29 and a half days long. Hence like the elder brought out, half of them being 29 days, the other half being 30. This month happens to have 29 days. When the sun goes down, we'll be in the 13th month. And when the sun comes down, or when the new moon comes in at the Saturday sundown, the week and the month start on the same day. It doesn't always happen that way, obviously, but this time it happens that way. You have some that'll teach, yeah, whenever the new moon comes in, you start counting the weeks, which we know we can't do that, right? That won't add up. You'll always have days left over. Since we know 7 days in a week, 4 weeks generally in a month, but you're always going to have a day and a half on average left over after 7 days times 4. So it just so happens that the month and the week begin the same day, but that won't always be the case. All right, so got to that exercise. So let's go to 1 Kings 21 now. So 1 Kings chapter 21. And let me just post a link real quick if you guys don't have it already. But it's going to show wrong link. Control A, delete. So this is a online resource, a Bible Atlas, one of our 7 key tools we want to have when we study the scriptures to help edify us. So if I'll post a link here. This is where I'm getting this from. So it's a free act. If as long as you have internet access, you can get to this particular PDF of the Bible Atlas, and like map 62. If you look here towards the middle, where you see the word Israel. If you look above it, you'll see Jezreel, and then a bubble pointing where it says Elijah pronouncing doom on Ahab and his family. So right above where it says Mediterranean Sea on the left, this bubble here, and you see where it's pointing at, just so you have an idea of where these events are taking place when we read in 1 Kings, the 21st chapter. So let's get the story that leads into what this bubble is referring to now. So now this is 1 Kings 21. And verse 1. And it reads, it came to pass after these things that Naboth, the Jezreelites, we showed that city, Jezreel, where it was located on the map, had a vineyard which was in Jezreel, hard by the place of Ahab, king of Samaria. So we have this man, Naboth. He was living in the city of Jezreel. Remember, when you see an IT after a word or a name, it means, either coming from that ancestor or coming from a certain place. So if you're an Israelite, you come from the man Israel and his loins, right? Who had sons and daughters, and they had sons and daughters, and you come from them. You could also be from a certain place. Like David was called a Bethlehemite, even though he came from Israel through one of his sons, Judah. He was referred to as a Bethlehemite because he came from the city of Bethlehem. As in the Hebrew, you'll see the relationship there where they say cities, in a sense, birth their inhabitants, right? When you're from a place. So he was from Jezreel, and he had a vineyard that was close by to where Ahab's palace was, who was king over Samaria. So let's read on in verse 2. It says, and Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, give me thy vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it. Or, if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money, right? So now, Ahab seeing his vineyard and liking it, he's offering to buy it from him for a certain sum of money, right? Whatever it may be worth in value. But now, as we're going to find out, what saith the scriptures, what saith the law when it comes to inheritance, right? Because we know when it comes to the law of kings, when you read in 1 Samuel chapter 8, it's very specific. It's kind of similar, not exactly the same, but similar, has similarities to how we will deal with Levi, who didn't have an inheritance. But whatever the tenth that Israel made across the tribes would go to them to support the king and his court, right, and his officers. A tenth would also be required of Israel to support the king. So 20% of whatever we had earned in Israel, 10% of it would go to the Levites, the priests, in an ideal situation according to righteousness, and a tenth would go to whatever king we had set up at that time. But we know when it came to the northern kingdom, they had that, but then they change certain things around, even as the Southern Kingdom did, but just not as much and not as soon. But certain things were adhered to. And we see here with Ahab, he's doing something that, going back to the law, wouldn't have been permitted, because the king is already getting a tenth from everybody. But when it comes to inheritance of certain families and tribes, it's supposed to stay within those respective tribes. Like I said, I know we were just reading about this not too long ago in the last Sabbath service when we read Numbers 36, right? And they got some examples related to Numbers 36 during last Sabbath service, as far as how to make sure that inheritance stay within their respective families. But reading on in verse 3, it says, and Naboth said to Ahab, the Lord or Yahweh forbiddeth me that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto thee. So that's what he's talking about, right? Like I said, just refer back, if you weren't with us, refer back to the Sabbath a week ago when we were reading in Tobit, because we brought out, even though it was a short service, we brought some good points to kind of touch on inheritance and some scriptures you can read as reference. So definitely refer back to those. It says in verse 4, and Ahab came into his house heavy and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, I will not give him the inheritance of my fathers. It says, and he laid him down upon his bed and turned away his face and would eat no bread. So, as they say today, he was King Ahab was in his feelings, right? That's what they would say today. He was hurt because it was like, he made in his mind, he thinking he made him an offer that he couldn't refuse, right? But even though he could have even given him more than what it may have been worth, Naboth, still standing on righteousness, right? On righteous business, he said, well, hold on, I can't do that, right? Just utterly just sell it to you, right? Because it has to stay within my family's inheritance, right? So even though it may be convenient for your sake, it's still not according to the law, since I'm close by or I'm right next to you. So he feels some kind of way about it. But now let's see, because now his wife, Jezebel, which we go into her back, remember she was a Canaanite, right? I mean, not a Canaanite, she was a Zidonian. You go into her background, and we didn't read anything good that she really contributed to anything, right? Hence, even that name Jezebel being used as like a metaphor for an unruly woman, right? A woman who's always dealing with wickedness when it comes to her words and deeds. But it's the actual woman Jezebel who the name comes from, right? This Zidonian that Ahab took for a wife. It says in verse 5, but Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said unto him, why is thy spirit so sad that thou eatest no bread? So now she's wondering, why he's so down and out. 6, and he said unto her, because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, he said unto him, give me thy vineyard for money, or else, if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. So now he's presenting the case as far as what's the situation that happened and why he's feeling some kind of way about it. Verse 7, and Jezebel's wife said unto him, dost thou not govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let thine heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So it's like doing a good thing before the bad reason, right? It's a good thing that a wife comfort her husband, right? When he's not well, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, etc. But for a cause that's not according to righteous judgment, that just makes any intention of her to do well by her husband just becomes defiled at this point. And we're going to see what she's going to do going forward.
Can everybody learn from each other within the tribe?
Not outright, no. Because according to the law, it has to go back, right? You should know that. You actually taught that one time.
I'm not supposed to go from tribe to tribe. Yes, I know, but I'm saying like go to the land.
You actually brought that out at one point. You don't remember? A couple holy days back, we were going into Leviticus 25, which we oftentimes read when we do Day of Atonement, which goes into the year of release, as well as the day of Jubilee. And it's all broken down there as far as after a certain time period is up. Well, you could say lease our land to our brother, but after that time period is up, it has to go back to the inheritance of your forefathers. But as far as buying it outright, no, because the borders wouldn't be maintained, right? You'd have Judah and Simeon, for example, who are like adjacent to each other, or Simeon inside of Judah. Theirs would either get bigger and bigger, or they would get smaller and smaller, because Judah would buy more of it, or Simeon would buy more of theirs, and the borders would get all out of whack. One tribe were so inclined, however the small their plot of land would have been, they just kept buying and buying land, and then their brothers, hypothetically speaking, kept selling it to them outright. You'd have their plot of land just keep spreading out. Like imagine if Ephraim, which was in a certain point on the map, they would keep buying all the land to where the other tribes wouldn't have anything to sell left. And we'd say, oh, now this is Ephraim. Ephraim is taking up all this space now. So that's why that law was put in place. So in principle, by Naboth agreeing to this, he would be violating that principle to maintain the other borders, not only between tribes, but within families of those tribes too.
In Jubilee, right?
And maybe let me see. Since we're talking about it, I guess I could do a quick visual aid. Let me see if I can find a map real quick that could that shows those plots. Let's see. 62 is where we left off. Chapter 1, the face of the ancient Near East. Chapter 2. Chapter 3, life in ancient Palestine. And that's going into before Abraham. Okay. The world of the patriarchs. I think we're getting closer now. Let's see. We're going to get down to Exodus. Okay. Conquest. Sea peoples. Limits the settlement. Okay, here we go. Number 39. So let me share this with you guys real quick. This is map number 39 from that same thing I shared from before. Add to stage. So map 39, this map pretty much shows the allotment of the tribes. So, and we see Jezreel, looks like it's right here between Manasseh and Issachar, as far as at least where the way they have the colors situated here. But if Naboth were to agree to that and say, yeah, sure, here is it, here, and if anyone could do what he did, that means that West Manasseh, like we see here, it could just keep spreading out, or Issachar keeps spreading out if they were to buy it, and then just keep it forever. These plots of land that were established back in the time of Joshua, after we took it from the Canaanites, these borders would have been never maintained. But yeah, this is just a map, at least an example of the different tribes and where their cities were and then where their borders were, right? And you read it in Joshua. I think there's even a chapter reference here, even on this map. Yeah, so pretty much the latter parts of Joshua when it's divvying up the different plots of land between the tribes. So this is the context that behind which Naboth is judging, as far as making his decision or agreeing not to sell his land, in which he is actually justified. And we're going to see once again what Jezebel's going to do to try to comfort her husband, howbeit in a matter that's not justified according to the law. And then by Ahab agreeing to what she does, the judgment going to fall upon Ahab now for this. So back to 1 Kings 21, it says, I'm in verse 8. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal like we just did in Purim, right? Talking about you got a person writing the letter, but then they'll seal it with the king's ring. Thinking about Haman and King Artaxerxes, right? And sent the letters unto the elders and to the nobles that were in his city, dwelling in Naboth. So this letter going to those nobles that were there, those heads in that city. And she wrote in the letter saying, proclaim a fast and set Naboth on high among the people, right? So look at how crafty this is, right? She said, proclaim a fast, and it says, and set Naboth on high among the people, right? So you're doing a fast, but then you're like giving him an honor, right? As if you're giving him an honor. And in fasting, it says, and set two men, the sons of Belial, which sons of Belial, you don't want to be those guys, but pretty much just means sons of wickedness or wicked men, right? So you don't want to be from Belial, right? That's what just that expression just means. Not necessarily talking about a specific place, but it's just talking about men of wickedness. You go into that word. Before him, to bear witness against him, saying, thou didst blaspheme God and the king, and then carry him out and stone him that he may die, right? So pretty much set him up, make him seem like he's being praised, but then, even if you're doing this fast, a righteous thing, then falsely accuse him of blaspheming God and the king. It says in verse 11, and the men of his city, even the elders and the nobles who were the inhabitants in his city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them. So these heads of the city followed suit with this wicked decree against this brother Naboth, who's justified in his sayings and doings. How sad, how horrible, right? But once again, things written aforetime, written for our learning, right? It's always a beautiful thing where even if we've been wronged, or our ancestors, which may have been us in certain cases, we don't know, we were ever wronged, even in those times, at least the record would show what we did the right thing. It would be recorded showing that, yeah, if we died wrongfully, it would be there and it would be mentioned, as opposed to the people at that time may have believed the hype and meant, oh man, Naboth, oh, he was such a good brother, I remember him. I even bought some herbs from him, from that he grows on his land. He grows a lot of good stuff there. I like to go there and do business with him, right? Or I do business with him in the gates of the city. Man, he blasphemed God and the king. Oh wow! So a lot of folks that believe that lie, right? Even though it wasn't true, we have the record here showing that wasn't true. So all praise be to the Most High in Christ and the Holy Spirit by always keeping the record straight for the right and the wrong that we've done. But in the case right, when it comes to the brother Naboth here, let's read on in 12. It says, they proclaimed the fast and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came in two men, children of Belial, right, just as she prescribed, and sat before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme God and the king. And they carried him forth out of the city and stoned with stones that he died. So, shame on them. Shame on them for falsely accusing this brother and then putting him to death. It says in 14, then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. So they did the deed, right, according to her machination or her evil plan. 15, it came to pass when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee for money. For Naboth is not alive, but dead. So she came to give him the good news, which we know is really evil news, an evil report, as far as what they did and why they did it. So, like the scriptures say, be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap, right? So let's see what's going to happen now in verse 17. It says, and the word of Yahweh came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, arise, go down to meet Ahab king of Israel, which is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, whither he has gone down to possess it, right? So we don't read about him having any type of remorse for this, right? In his mind, it's just like, oh man, my wife Jezebel, she did me a solid. She did me a solid and looked me out, to get this land that I wanted, right? Like I see the brother in the back rubbing his hands.
Probably like thank Most High, you know.
You most I ain't hearing your thanks, right? Most I would not hear your thanks. Let you have the nerve to thank God. Thank you, Yahweh, for what you just did, and what you allowed to go down. So now we have the righteous prophet Elijah, right? So now the Most High is going to tell him to go to him to give them this judgment based on these horrible deeds we just read about in these first couple verses. So the Most High, I should say, the word of the Most High came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, "Arise, go down and meet Ahab, king of Israel, which is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, whither he is go down to possess it." So you can just write it down, but we won't go through the whole thing. I know it's kind of long, but just write down Leviticus 25th chapter as a reference. If you want to go back to that to kind of review how the year release, Barak, how the year of release worked, as well as the year Jubilee, and how it was used to, help out your fellow brother and sister when it came to land leasing or having your land lent out for a certain period of time, but then how the release would then have to go back to the person. And then I made a reference to Galatians 6 and 7, not just the person, but their family, right? This being the thing that Naboth is observing, which is lawful and justified. Then I made a reference to Galatians 6 and 7, which is be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. In this case, not just figuratively, but actually literally, like since we're talking about land, right? Bring that out.
Yeah. Covetousness also, right? Covetousness, like in Exodus 20.
Okay, what's this? You had a scripture? You say you're just making an indirect reference.
This is Exodus 20. It says those that covet their neighbors, because he's a neighbor, you know.
Mm-hmm. What chapter and verse?
Exodus 20.
Oh, Exodus. Okay.
17.
Okay.
Exodus 20 and 17. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
All right. So we read when we did the morning prayers, as we always do, right? Go through the 10 Commandments. All right. So that's Exodus 20 and 17. All right. So let's read on back in verse 18. It says, in Kings 21 and 18, "Arise, go down to meet Ahab, king of Israel, which is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, whither he is going down to possess it." That's when the brother was going like this. Right? Happy to get his hands on his brother's land now that he killed them unjustly. "And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith Yahweh, hast thou killed and also taken possession? And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith Yahweh, in the place where dogs lick the blood of Naboth, shall dogs lick thy blood, even thine." Right? So where the dogs licked up the blood of Naboth, this man that you had killed, right? That was justified in his sayings and doings. So I'm going to flip it back on you, right? So you'll see with the Most High's judgment, he does it a lot where he holds a mirror up to you and says, look, this is what you're about. If you're about this and you're going about things this way, now I'm going to reward you in a similar fashion, be it for the good that you do or for the evil that you do. So here's another example of like the mirror effect, if you will, where what you do ends up coming back to you. Like we read, or like we referenced in Galatians 6 and 7. Then it says in verse 20, "Ahab said to Elijah, Hast thou found me, O mine enemy? And he answered, I have found thee. So calling him his enemy, because we know what happened in the previous chapters. He shouldn't be his enemy. He should really be King Ahab should have been humble and been like, all right, let me talk to Elijah and be with him more, since he's a justified prophet. And we know what happened before with the prophets of Baal, right? And him taking them out for dealing with idols, dealing with wickedness, and then claiming that Baal was the true God. But Ahab's still on the side of wickedness, still on the side of Jezebel and all those other wicked Israelites, and whoever else we may have allied ourselves with. Him still being on that side, he's considering Elijah's enemy. When really, Elijah's doing you a favor. If anything, you should be aligned with Elijah and what he's about. But we're going to see the Most High's mercy when it comes to even our kings like Ahab, right? To where he's going to extend them different or more than one olive branch, if you will, to get things right, to make a sound decision. But now Elijah, not respecting King Ahab's person, he's going to tell him the truth. It says, and he answered, I have found thee because thou hast sold thyself to work evil in the sight of Yahweh, right? So you see this is where the expression comes from, selling out, or being sold, or selling, being sold to do mischief, right? So oftentimes we use this verse to show this what it means to sell out. So 21 and 20, you just link Proverbs. You have to get it. I'll just read it real quick. This is Proverbs 19 and 16. To go with 21 and 20. Where Proverbs 19 and 16, it reads, he that keepeth the commandment keepeth his own soul. He that despiseth his ways shall die, right? So this is how you keep your soul. So when we talk about people selling out, whether it was back then or now, right, it really ties back to you keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. A lot of folks talking about them selling out for riches and fame, whether it be movie stars or entertainers, musicians of different types. They weren't keeping the commandments already. They were in the world already. They were already sold out. Their soul was already sold. It's just a matter of how low can you go? How much more wickedness are you willing to do? They oftentimes don't talk about that. They say, oh yeah, I used to be in the Christian church and then I sold my soul so that I could be a megastar. You have interviews where you have these celebrities actually saying this, verbatim. But little do they realize you didn't have your soul from the jump. You weren't keeping the commandments before. Because in the so-called Christian church, you're not keeping the laws. They don't teach that. But yeah, another example in the New Testament, as far as selling out, this is Peter. So right after James, chapter 2 and verse 3. I'll start from 1 and I'll read down to 3. So this is 2 Peter chapter 2. Emphasis on verse 3, but I'll start from 1 so we know what we're talking about. 2 Peter chapter 2 and 1, it says, but there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even deny the Lord that brought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction, right? So from the Old Testament to the New Testament, you go against the Most High, you go against his principles, the result's always the same. Like we're reading here in 1 Kings 21. It says in verse 2, and many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. So them calling Naboth evil. when he was actually righteous. Then it says, and through covetousness, oh, you quote that verse earlier, Yalkana?
Yeah.
Shall they with feigned words or fake words, right? Like you're pretending, make merchandise of you. See that? So you become a product to be sold, as opposed to you keeping yourself in the commandments and keeping your integrity. Whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. Right? So now if you have the measure of the scriptures as your foundation, you can then discern when people bring propositions to you, you can say, well, hold on. All right, you're the king. Okay, you're someone wealthy, you're someone famous, and you're offering this. But wait a minute, according to the Most High's law, I shouldn't be saying this. I shouldn't be doing that. I'm sorry. I had to refuse. I had to refuse your offer. I had to deny your indecent proposal. And it takes a person of integrity to be willing to do that, especially when a person is famous or a person is wealthy or renowned for one reason or another, in whatever time period we're talking about. So yeah, no sellouts here. And if you do, you have an even worse judgment. Even if men try to harm you, at least your soul is preserved. But let's go back to 1 Kings 21.
As you look at it, like with the covetousness, and that's what this world pushes, and we as Israelites got to be careful not to fall into that same category, that competitiveness, that competition. What it does is it pushes people to want something that somebody else has. That's covetousness, right? So you know what? I'm gonna bump him off and then take his spot. I'm gonna try to teach better than him so that people can desire me than him. Not knowing that you in a position, you have a portion, the Most High intend for you to keep your portion through generation. That's your inheritance. And the inheritance goes beyond wealth. It goes with the law, statute, and commandments. Like in Jeremiah 17:4, said, even thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I give you. Right? It's a whole package. It's the law, statute, and commandments, along with the wealth that the Most High give a tribe or a nation. Right. So, and also in Genesis 17:9, you can see the same inheritance is given to Abraham, right, to pass down to generations. So the Most High intend for each tribe to keep their inheritance, their wealth inheritance, right? But the law is given to all Israel. But as far as their portion, it shall continue from generation to generation. Don't misplace it because that's your, that's your portion.
Come. You got to be thinking too when you make that comment about the spirit of the law when it comes to inheritance, right? Like you have the law, which is literal. Don't do this, don't say this, say this. But even a spirit of the law, a spirit of that law that you can draw from that is like appreciating what you have, right?
Right.
Even if it's not a physical inheritance per se, but appreciating to where the idea is to make the most of your lot, make the most of what you've been given, because you may have a certain plot of land. It may not be physically, humongous, but in dealing with that land wisely, one person can take that same land and do well with it and do even more with it than the other person who has, like, say, twice as much. So a lot of times it goes back to our wisdom when it comes to taking the little that we have and making the most of it, to have ingenuity. And on the physical level, when it comes to agriculture and horticulture and things like that, there's a certain wisdom that goes into how to make the most with land, right? Be it a little bit of land or a lot. Instead of just saying, oh man, I don't have this land, I only have this. Instead of saying, you know what, look at the land I do have. Let me see how I can yield something from it. So that being a physical law, but then it deals spiritually when it comes to even our own spiritual gifts, the things we grow within ourselves when it comes to our skills and talents, right? To make the most of even starting off with a little, or having a little being handed down from us from those that came before us. So yeah, all types of sphere of the law within the law that you can draw out of it that isn't explicitly said, but as you study more and as you just experience more things and look at the world around you and your own experiences through a righteous light through the scriptures, these things become opened up into you.
Kind of like what we have right now. Like even though we sin, right, and we lost our inheritance, those who cause us to sin, right, as we gonna read as we read down, those who cause us to sin and take our inheritance, they're gonna have to pay because it's not in their, it's not theirs to begin with, right? It's just a takeover because we mess up, but it's not theirs to begin with, right? So they're gonna have to pay for it. It's like you say, he told him, you see, you took his vineyard, that you did that, because you covered his vineyard. That was his portion. So you take over it, you're gonna have to pay the same way because you caused them to. I mean, you're the one who caused them to sin to begin with.
So add on Genesis 17:9 as well as Jeremiah 17:4 to go along with the we read in Proverbs and 2 Peter, all going with verse 20 of 1 Kings 21, which I'll read again. 1 Kings 21:20. And Ahab said to Elijah, "Hast thou found me, O mine enemy?" And he answered, "I have found thee, because thou hast sold thyself to work evil in the sight of Yahweh." Now reading on in 21, "Behold, I will bring evil upon thee, and will take away thy posterity," right? "And will cut off from Ahab him that pisseth against the wall, and him that is shut up and left in Israel." So not only taking him out, but then taking out any of his and any of his progeny, his sons, right, that would come after him. The whole, pissed against the wall, right? It's kind of harsh the way it's phrased, but it's talking about those of his posterity, those that would carry on his name, right? The Most High is going to take them out.
Right. Because if they live, they will take on that spirit, right? They will take on that spirit and they will inherit what he does as if it's theirs. So with that, the Most High gotta get rid of them.
And then we're receiving that poor example and going, "Oh, this is what we do. This is how we get over."
Yeah.
This is like the mob mentality, Like, yeah, when you run the mob, you gotta have a strong arm. You gotta let these guys know you mean business. If they want to cross you, you gotta, get them back and then, like taking principles we have on the right hand side, but then using them for corruption. Because even in our law, you read that in Psalms 18, where David talks about, I didn't stop till my enemies were completely consumed, right? Not until I didn't let even one of them stand after the war was over. So they had to have that mentality, but on the left-hand side. Take out your opponents, take their riches, take their wealth, take their women, and then, right off into the sunset, That's how we do things, so that they don't forget. Right. It's just like, I think, well, y'all can.
You remember that he was a king, though. So like, I could take this, I could take that, whatever, I pay for it, whatever, I have that power.
Right.
I'm the king,
Exactly. That's why I mentioned the whole respect of persons piece, right? That Naboth didn't. He stood on as they say, staying on business. He stood on righteous business.
Yeah, I love what you were saying. It's like the mob mentality. Even if they wrong on their deathbed, or when they face misfortune and they're about to kill them, they apologize. But your family gonna inherit what you stole.
Right.
What you have stolen is still in your possession, right. But you pretend like you apologizing, but your wealth shall continue for generations. The Most High is that. Most High gonna get rid of your generation so they don't take your wealth and it'll go back to the rightful owner. And that's exactly what's going on with America.
Yeah.
Or that's what's happening with, for example, Clinton, right? He would apologize for destroying, Haiti rice, rice production.
Okay.
Right? So he apologized. He said, he caused the people to impoverish. They used to self-sustain. Now he allowed Texas, Michigan, away from
Arkansas,
rice to, take over the Haitian rice industry. He apologized. He said he apologized, but he was the cause of it. But yet, all those corporations, they still profiting.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's not like you give it back and you restore the people. Apologizing is not doing anything. It's just it's just face.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. You said it was Bill Clinton, right?
Yeah.
Because wasn't Hillary, wasn't she one? I'm not sure if it was when she was Secretary of State when she was under President Obama, but she did some apology to so-called Black Americans, right, about slavery. Everybody just looked at her, was just like, we kind of in too deep at this point. Like we're gonna need a little bit more than that. After all this time has gone by, So I guess they looked at the Clintons and said, oh yeah, they have a certain charisma. Let's see if we can use them to kind of get these things. Whereas, like you were saying, they're still gonna be about their mob business. Take what you got, But then we'll just put certain people out there that people like, or that are more amiable, even though they're still doing wickedness, but they're more favored, to get them to say the things that they really don't mean, to get them to try to lower their guard. Because really, Clinton needs to apologize for all of that, because that whole, what you're just talking about, that's part of his NAFTA deal, right, in the 90s.
Right.
Because think about, you're talking about how it affected Levi in particular. Think about all the other tribes in Central South America, as well as the Caribbean, that NAFTA jacked up. That's its own discussion, I'm sure. It's all dealing with trade, and messing up your trade to where whatever you grow or produce in your land, you can't get what it's worth, right? You can't even, take care of your own farmers. You have to, get subsidized by the Americans and what they grow here, and it messes up your economy. But I'm glad you touched on how Levi in particular was affected by that. But we should be going to the other tribes in Central and South America. NAFTA got them too. So, plenty of apologies to go around. And even more than that, you gotta give it back, right? Like the scriptures say, if the wicked restore the pledge, give again that he have robbed, walk in the statutes of life. But are they gonna do that? I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Yeah, even back in there with Clinton, she was calling us super predators,
Right. Let me read an excerpt of what he said, right? It said, it may have been good for some of my farmers in Arkansas, but it has not worked. It was a mistake. I had to live every day with the consequences of the loss of capacity to produce a rice crop in Haiti to feed those people because of what I did. Nobody else.
Break out the violins, y'all.
Oh, please.
Break out the violins. Oh, he's sorry, guys. He's sorry. Oh, he's so sorry. So well put. So it's like Esau admits his wrongdoing. Okay, wonderful. Now, what are you going to do to show your remorse? Well, about that, let me get back to you on that.
A verse to be on right now?
So what?
A verse to be on.
Oh, 22. Who are the corporations that deal with the rice? I know it's like Domino, I think, is the sugar. Who the ones for the rice?
I have a list of them. I have a list of them.
We can talk about it afterwards. Now that you mentioned, I'm just curious. But good modern day example to parallel what we're reading here when it comes to inheritance and wealth and the judgment that comes with that when it comes to keeping things within the family. You can write this too. You can link it with verse 20, but probably just link it with I guess verse 21. But it's like a verse we always like to pull at camp, but it's true. I think we pulled it last week too, but Deuteronomy 32, 8 and 9, because it's going to be how we do things in the kingdom. In the kingdom, we're going to have our land right back, and then with the heathen that remain that survived the Third World War that we use as slaves, they're going to pay us tribute. They're going to pay their tenth to the king. They pay their tenth to the Levites, just like we would do as Israel. But at least when it comes to our righteous rulership, we'll allow them to deal with their own land. But we're going to make sure they deal with their own land according to the law, statutes, and commandments, that they can get the most out of their land, which in turn is going to show them in time wow, these are God's people. We got no one better to serve than them. Because they were going to realize, wow, we made things worse by trying to, be the top government and kind of take things to our own manners when it was our time in the sun to be the top ruler, whatever nation. All we did was hurt ourselves in the process. Whereas the way the Israelites do things, this is the best way, the right way. But yeah, Deuteronomy 32, 8 and 9. It reads, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. So Israel's in the middle. That's why you look at these regions, they're always referred to in reference to where Israel is at. The Middle East, the Far East, the West, right? The South, right? All based on the global South, that's what they call it, right? All based in reference to where Israel at, which is in the middle, the center. Not just physically center, but also spiritually. We're supposed to be the center of the earth. Everything's supposed to revolve around us. But how can that happen if we're not dealing with the Most High's law? And then verse 9, for Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is a lot of his inheritance. So we represent the Most High's inheritance when it comes to his creation. He's got all nations round about, but then he's got us right there in the center. It's like his prime real estate, if you will, right? That's us. That's what we represent when it comes to the Most High and his creation when it comes to when he made the nations. So yeah, back to 1 Kings 21. In verse 22, it says, and will make thine house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha, the son of Ahijah, for the provocation wherewith thou hast provoked me to anger and made Israel to sin. Right? And just look to the previous Sabbath services, and we're going to the previous chapters in 1 Kings to get those stories about Jeroboam as well as Baasha. And then we're going to get another Jeroboam, because there's two Jeroboams, but we'll get to him as we get further on in Kings. We get into 2 Kings. But this one talking about the first Jeroboam that reigned during the time of Rehoboam, right? During the time of Solomon, and then followed by his son Rehoboam. But now in verse 23, it says, and of Jezebel also spake Yahweh, saying, so she's got a judgment to look forward to now. What's that? The dog shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Him that dieth of Ahab in the city, the dog shall eat, and him that dieth in the field shall the fowls of the air eat. So yeah, she's going to be dog food as well. So listen to these words, listen to this judgment. So let's see how Ahab responds to this judgment. Oh, and let me just say this too. So we're talking about inheritance and who you are and how you live. Like not getting a proper burial, like we saw with Tobit, trying to make sure his brothers get proper burial during the time of the Syrian captivity. That's like a high dishonor, right? From a physical standpoint, just when it comes to your house, those that are part of your family, those that come after you, to not get that proper burial is like a great dishonor. You just be left out there. And this even adds insult to injury to where it's like, not only you're not going to get that proper burial and get that proper acknowledgement when it comes to your house, but you're going to be the scrap for the birds of prey, for the scavenger animals. They're just going to pick off your remains. It's a great dishonor. But it's perfect in its judgment, because look how dishonorable you've been while you've been living. Look how you dishonored my people. You dishonored yourselves in the process. So it's a suiting proper judgment.
It's like all was given, right? When we read this, parallel with Tobit, like you said, what Tobit was doing was big. It was humbly, it was a noble work that he was doing, burying his people, even in the land of captivity.
Yeah.
Right, to the point where they snitch on him, the king snitched on him, because when they killed the people, he thought those people were villains. To go out and bury him is like a slap on his face. See what I'm saying? So that's why he was on the run. But still, that was that was a good almsgiving on his part.
Absolutely. So reading on in verse 25, it says, "But there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness." So there's a, go back to verse 20, right? Sold himself to do evil, right? So, you know, like I mentioned before, Romans 15:4, things written for us are written for our learning. So we can learn from King Ahab as far as how not to be when it comes to our reign, when it comes to the power that we have in these examples. So it's one thing our history does that oftentimes with the other nations, when it comes to their histories, they like to change things. Whereas when it comes to us, our history, even the history of these other nations, even if they try to lie about theirs, we had even had their judgment in here too in our Bible. The good, the bad, the ugly, it's all there, right? It says, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of Yahweh, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up. And he did very abominably in following idols, which we already know, according to all things as did the Amorites, right? One of those seven Canaanite nations we were supposed to utterly destroy. So look at how they have even remained as a thorn in our side, because we as a nation didn't do what we were supposed to do, even going back to Joshua's time, right? You know, call back to the inheritance, right? That was once these Canaanite nations, right? Amorites being one of them. Now to be our inheritance, but then how certain of our tribes didn't even follow through in that regard for one reason or another, and how these people remain to be a temptation, to be a thorn in our side. As did the Amorites, whom Yahweh cast out before the children of Israel. Right? It says, and it came to pass, when Ahab heard these words, that he rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his flesh, and fasted and lay in sackcloth and went softly. Right? So he humbled himself after hearing this harsh judgment is going to come upon him and upon his wife, right? His strange wife. But now check this out, just to show the Most High in that he's an even and just God. You know, he's firm, but at the same time, he'll extend mercy, right? Just depend on how we operate going forward, even to receiving a judgment like that. It says, and the word of Yahweh came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, seest thou how Ahab humbled himself before me? Because he humbled himself before thee, I will not bring evil in his days, but in his son's days will I bring the evil upon his house. You see that? So the Most High is merciful, but at the same time, his judgment will be done. In that you wanted to take out Naboth and take his inheritance from him. Now I'm going to have mercy upon you because you humbled yourself in this one thing. But when it comes to your inheritance of your sons, we're right above any that piss against the wall, any that are shut up in Israel, tied to you, I'm going to bring the judgment upon them, right? So was that we always quote was it the Gladiator with the guy, was it the actor that played Commodus? Am I not merciful? Am I not merciful? Right? But after we heard what he said before that, it was just like, that's not just what you want to do, right? With your own sister, that's crazy. But when it comes to the Most High, right, it's like you really consider what he's doing. It's like, wow, he could have made things a lot worse. But looking at even how he's dealing with you justly, because you're still Israel. Yet you done horrible crimes, but because you humbled yourself, I'm not gonna let it come on you. But your sons are gonna feel it though. Right. Right. We'll get to this as you read on too, and we get to King Hezekiah much later. But it kind of makes you think about that a little bit when he invited the Babylonians to check out, everything he had in the temple and stuff. And Isaiah was like told him what's going to happen later on, generations later, about the Babylonians coming to take over the southern kingdom. And Hezekiah didn't buck up against Isaiah. He just said, "Great is the word which the Most High spoken. At least I'll have good it during my days." You read Ezekiel 38. Isaiah 38, kind of goes into that. But yeah, like I said, kind of reminds me of that. But different kings, you know, when we talk about Hezekiah and how he reigned versus Ahab and how he reigned. But so yeah, in his son's days will he bring evil upon his house. All right, so was that Isaiah 38? Let me just make sure, because sometimes I mix up 38 and 39. I don't tell you guys the wrong thing.
You look at Saul's sons, you know.
It was 39. My bad. So I'll read this real quick before we go into the next chapter. This is Isaiah 39. I'll just read from 3 to 8. But like I said, we'll get this history as you read on in the Sabbaths to come. So Isaiah 39 and 3, it says, Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah and said unto him, What said these men, and from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, They are come from a far country unto me, even from Babylon. And he said, What have they seen in thine house? And Hezekiah answered, All that is in mine house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them. And then said Isaiah to Hezekiah, Hear the word of Yahweh of hosts. Behold, the days come, that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store until this day, shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith Yahweh. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. And then verse 8, Then said Hezekiah to Isaiah, Good is the word of Yahweh which thou hast spoken. He said, Moreover, for there shall be peace and truth in my days. Right? So it's like or at least, you know, things will be all right during this time. But I guess based on what happens with them and their choices, that's going to be the thing that has to go down. So, yeah, like the expression they use when they talk about government today, they say, you know, politicians are fond of kicking the can down the road, right? Kick the can down the road, you hear that expression. But yet and still, you're going to have to deal with that can, right? You can't just keep kicking the can down the road. You're going to have to address what's in that can. You're going to have to answer for, you know, the judgment. You're going to have to deal with the debts that are owed, right? Or the things that are required when it comes to words, deeds, bad, you know, different laws that have been passed at different levels. You still got to answer to those things. You can't just keep putting it off. Mm-hmm.
Even with 2 Samuel 21 and 6, he said about King Saul, he said, Let 7 men of his sons be delivered unto us. You know, although Saul went down.
What are you reading?
Like 2 Samuel 21 and 6.
Okay.
There was a famine.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 Samuel 21 and 1, that there was a famine in the days of David 3 years, year after year, and David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered, It is for Saul and his bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonites. So verse 6, it says, Let 7 men of his sons be delivered unto us, and we will hang them up unto the Lord in Gibeah of Saul, whom the Lord did choose. And the king said, I will give them. So Saul's sons died, died too.
Okay. So 1 Kings 22 in verse 1. We read 2 Samuel 21, verse 1 and verse 6, and Isaiah 39, 3 to 8, to link with the end of chapter 21, which is like about verse 29, right? As far as how judgment falls upon our forefathers in authority and also upon those that come after them, right? So 1 Kings 22:1, it says, and they continued 3 years without war between Syria and Israel. Remember, we were reading about Ben-Hadad, right? A couple weeks back when we were going into 1 Kings in those previous chapters. It came to pass in the third year that Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, he was the king of Judah at this point, right? Came down to the king of Israel. It says in verse 3, and the king of Israel said unto his servants, know ye that Ramoth and Gilead is ours, and we be still, and take it not out of the hand of the king of Syria, right? So we're talking about before, the war between nations, right? The war for inheritance, right? What's yours? What's mine, right? And then when wars and battles are fought, our wars and battles being fought because of us not dealing righteously, to the Most High raise up nations that then come in and take what we have. So now when we come back into power, well, if we have a new successor as a king, the idea is to get back those lands that are supposed to be rightfully ours. And we do that from a righteous standpoint through the Most High. And we see the heathen do the same thing amongst each other, even in modern times, to say, look, these portions of land are supposed to belong to us. And depending on the conflict, how it works out, those that tend to have more might, the idea is might makes right. So they'll force their way into plots of land that don't really belong to them. And it appears though they're getting away with it. But are they really? Because the Most High already knows what land belongs to who in the end. Right? Look no further than the conflict going on right now in Israel, right? In Gaza. Or look no further than the conflict going on over in Ukraine, right? So it says, he's pretty much putting the question out there saying, yeah, the Syrians have Gilead, but now is that ours or Ramoth? Which Ramoth just means like heights. So you'll see that Ramoth-Gilead kind of combines. So it's kind of like the heights of Israel or Gilead heights. Kind of we say today when we talk about maybe a place or a portion of a land that might be like higher elevation, they'll refer to it as the heights of a place. And he said unto Jehoshaphat, wilt thou go with me to battle to Ramoth-Gilead? And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, I am as thou art, my people as thy people, my horses as thy horses. So we'll get into this too when we talk about Jehoshaphat, who was a righteous king, but then certain things he may have said or did weren't necessarily sound, in that he's trying to build this alliance with Ahab, but at the same time, it's like, I think we read this not too long ago, but we'll definitely read it again, as far as the Most High questioning Jehoshaphat on his dealings with Ahab, right? And the nature of it, to where it's almost like he's trying to think of the best word for this, like trimming his ways, if you will. Like he himself won't do certain things, but then he'll kind of humor King Ahab and the things that he's doing, the way he's going about things, almost like condoning it. So that would be recorded against Jehoshaphat, but still waiting to balance with the good that Jehoshaphat did as a king as well. But as you read on in the chapter, you'll see more of what I mean. It says, as I am you, as your people are, my people are, as your horses, my horses, right? So pretty much like I'm in this with you, right? Whatever you want to do, I'm with you. Concerning Ramoth-Gilead. Verse 5, and Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, inquire, I pray thee, at the word of Yahweh today, right? So Jehoshaphat, at least in this case, being a righteous example to King Ahab, right? Saying, let's inquire of Yahweh to see what should happen regarding this. You getting back this the land that was supposed to be yours that now the king of Syria has, right? And the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, about 400 men. So King Ahab got these guys on deck. It's like Elijah, Elijah, his work is never done, right? He did a good service by taking out those prophets of Baal, but it's like it's like there's no end to these prophets dealing with these idols, right? Like more and more lined up. Yes, I'm a prophet for, Baal. I'm a son of Belial as well, right? That can, commune with Baal and all his goodness, right? Which we know there's nothing good about it. So let's Let's see how King Josephat responds to this. Then the king of Israel gathered together the prophets together, about 400 men, and said unto them, Shall I go against Ramothgilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And they said, Go up, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. Right? So they said, Yeah, it's going to work out. Yeah. You'll be fine. But now, look, this thing always makes me laugh. I read verse 7. It says, Then Joseph had said, Isn't that a prophet of the Lord of Yahweh besides? We might inquire of him. So it's not really explicitly said, but clearly Josephat took a look at these prophets and was like, I don't know. I don't know if I could really we should really bank our trust on what these guys are talking about. So it's like he's trying to be, cordial with King Ahab, but I'm sure if Ahab, King Joseph had spoke his mind, he would say, King Ahab, come on, these aren't righteous prophets, and the way you're doing things is not right. But for the sake of peace, for the sake of us working together, I'll humor you. But these guys, these are your prophets, or you trust what these guys are saying? And we're going to see just how King Ahab. It's almost like when we talk about being double-minded in the scriptures, to where King Ahab, it's like he's aware, but he's still willing to go to the left. And we'll see that as we read on when it comes to Josephat's request to get a prophet of Yahweh. Not these 400 guys that I don't know what they're into.
Right. Josephat, remember, he was a king of Judah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Josephat. And Achab was king of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
They both in the know. They know the people.
Mm-hmm.
They know his administration, how he works. He knew that the 400 people that he got there, that's his council.
Mm-hmm.
And they work for him. And they're not going to go against whatever he said.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to tell him whatever he wants to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he knew that. So he's like, nah, like you said, nah, let's get some people with, objective mind, somebody who's neither, for or against. Somebody that's gonna tell it like it is. But your 400 people, those are people in your cabinets, man. We can't trust that because they like the privilege that they're having. They don't wanna upset you and say something contrary, or they lose the privilege, or they'll get killed.
Yep. What did he say today? Yes, man. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, my king. Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, beautiful. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's great. Oh, yes. It's just like he's surrounded by that all day long. It's just like even someone famous or ruler gonna be like, if they have any good sense, they gotta want, like you said, to find someone that's gonna like not just kiss their behind, But yeah, man, he's because it's just like what do you say, the spirit of the age, idolatry and the wickedness that's what was in. Ahab was supporting it, his queen Jezebel was supporting it. So it's like either you do that or you end up like Elijah, out there, hiding out in caves and living a tough life. So yeah, that was the vibration of that time, at least. So now, like you said, they're in the know. And now this is where we can really examine King Ahab and just say, wow, and examine ourselves at the same token and go, do I have I think they talk about, was it they have like a psychology term for it, like what they say, cognitive dissonance, where it's like something is wrong but then you try to tell yourself that it isn't. You try to live with this lie in your own mind about, yeah, I'm righteous, I'm good. But what you do day in and day out is not right, is good, right? Do you lie to yourself, or do you just acknowledge it but then try to put it out of your mind, even though it's right there looking you in the face?
As you read down, you're gonna see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This guy's like, nah, this guy always against me.
Come. Just like we read above, like in verse 20, right? He calls Elijah. He says, "Has thou found me, O mine enemy?" It's just like King Ahab. Like we gotta have a talk, brother. We gotta sit down and really talk this through, because like you've been given so many lifelines to do it right. Most High is trying to work with you, but you just keep digging that hole deeper and deeper and deeper. We just got to make sure we don't fall into a similar realm ourselves. Whatever, we're not on the same level as Ahab, obviously, but whatever we're dealing with, we don't get into the same place where it's like we start becoming double-minded, where we know what the right thing to do is, but then we continue to do the wrong thing in awareness, because that can be a thing. And that thing can add on to itself to where you may find yourself in a similar situation. And you're like, wow, I really need to, like the scriptures say, examine myself, prove my own self. So Elder, I think, was talking about that during the class last night as far as the Matthew 7, where it says, Lord, Lord, have we not cast out devils in thy name, done many wonderful works? Like, we don't want to be that by the time it's all said and done. And if we're not careful, it can happen to any of us. But let me read on, right? It says, and the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, there is yet one man, Micaiah, the son of Imlah, by whom we may inquire of Yahweh. But I hate him, for he doth not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. And Jehoshaphat said, let not the king say so. Like, don't say that. Like you were saying, don't say that. Let's hear what he has to say. It's okay. Let's see what he has to say. But look at how he's judging him, right? Oh, I hate him. He doesn't tell me good things. So it's like, let's get this verse, because we see King Ahab fall into this category, but plenty of Israel does too. Let's get Isaiah. Let's get Isaiah 30, right? So we always talk about when we go out and teach, we say, when we go out there and teach, and the people hear the truth and don't receive it, it's always because of two things. One, because they're just blind, like the curse said, Deuteronomy 28:28, which is, you shall be smitten with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Or two, that they're just rebellious for one reason or another. And that one reason or another goes back to the parable of the sower and the seed. What's your temptation or temptations, right? But the verse we get for that, which applies here, Isaiah chapter 30. And we'll start from verse 8. So Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 8. So yeah, blindness or rebelliousness. When you talk to family and friends about the truth, strangers, when you're out teaching, or even you're not out teaching, you're just in a grocery line or the post office or just whatever, you start talking to the truth about our people, it's always one of two things. Either you tell them the truth, they just can't see it due to the spiritual blindness. They hear what you're saying, but it's not really going in. It's not staying in. Or they understand what you're saying, but they willfully rebel against it because in their mind, they're looking at all the things they might lose if they actually do what you're saying. Things they might have to give up in this world to do it, to do what they're supposed to do. So this is Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 8. It reads, now go write it before them in a table, or like a tablet, right? It's like writing something down. And note it in a book, that it may be for the time to come forever and ever. Verse 9, that this is a rebellious people, lying children that will not hear the law of Yahweh, which say to the seers, see not, right? So King Ahab is definitely falling in this category, right? He's got his 400 men to replace the other ones that Elijah killed, right? See, they say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits, right? So this Micaiah, he's not one of those prophets, right? And he knows that, and he's like, this is a tough deal I got, right? He's like a prophet at a time, right? He's on point as far as the Most High, but he's under a wicked rulership, right? It's like being an employee at a company. You do everything you're supposed to do, but then all the folks you answer to, your superiors, are just corrupt as hell. You're like, oh my God, I'm stuck in this wicked company with these wicked people, but I'm trying to do my job and trying to do the right thing and all that, the third, but I can't even do that because the whole administration that I answer to, these guys are, always trying to cut corners and do this and do that, deal with, corporate espionage, and I'm stuck.
And again, Joseph had known that if 400 prophets prophesied good things when he knew this guy is not right, that's a false prophet. Right?
Yeah.
So he go to let's go to a link of Jeremiah 28. Jeremiah 28 and 8. How do I identify the false prophet? Because if you see everything that's going on around the world and somebody come out and say peace, 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 you know that's a false prophet.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to prophesy against all the atrocity that's being done all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's not a time for peace right now because the world is full of evil. Right? So the prophet that's going to come out is going to come out prophesize against all the evil that's going on in their community or all around the world. Right? Because there's no peace. If anything, the Most High gonna bring judgment.
Right.
So now it's not a time to prophesy peace. So the 400 people were saying peace for this guy when he was being wicked. So that's why Joseph was like, nah, something ain't right here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's find somebody who have a different opinion. Mm-hmm. Right? Let me read that real quick. It says, now how to identify the false prophet in the midst of chaos and destruction. Right? It says the prophet that have been before me and before thee, right, of all prophesied both against many countries, right, and against great kingdoms. If somebody is not condemning America, is not condemning this kingdom, you gotta. If they say, everything's gonna be all right, we're gonna find peace. It's a unified world. Everything's gonna be okay. We all must come together. Peace upon the world. We try to bring everybody together. It's we got to do philanthropy work. If somebody come in, he's a false prophet because in what's going on right now, nobody should be prophesying good things right now. Right? It says against great kingdom of wars and of evil and of pestilence. The prophet which prophesied. Now, if a prophet were to come and prophesy peace, when the word of the prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that the Lord has truly sent him. So if somebody do come out and say peace, you got to see peace happening. But right now, we have not seen peace. We see things getting worse and worse and worse because the peace that they've been talking about is not come to pass.
Come. That's a Tawab link. We start the verse. You don't have to do it, but just for folks watching, if you start from verse 5, think of the context because there's a conversation between Jeremiah and Hananiah, who was a false prophet. You'll get the fuller story behind that ending statement that he gave him. You know what I mean? Yeah. The chapter as a whole, which is just a similar scenario, but later on during the time of Nebuchadnezzar. But we'll get there eventually as we go through Kings. We'll get to this the same time period in history.
Jeremiah 28:15. Then said the prophet Jeremiah unto Hananiah the prophet, Hear now, Hananiah, the Lord had not sent thee, but thou makest this people to trust in a lie.
Right.
Con. See, the whole chapter is good to read, but yeah, it definitely rings to what we're seeing here with this situation between the kings of Israel and Judah and this prophet Micaiah, who, like we were saying before, he's a prophet at a time, a righteous prophet living during wicked times, during times of wicked government. And we're at Isaiah 38-10 as well. All this linking with 1 Kings 22 and verse 8, which I'll read again. 1 Kings 22 and 8. The king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, There is one man, Micaiah, the son of Imlah, by whom we may inquire of Yahweh, but I hate him. For he doth not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. Which us reading it now, knowing the truth, is like, okay, but are you doing good?
Right.
Are you doing evil? So what should he say? Should he just say, oh, you do evil? Oh, good. You do good? Oh, evil. That's what you want? So you want a yes man. You want yes men like you got. Okay, all right. But at the same time, he's remorseful when the Most High lays the hammer down, right? Like he did with Elijah. He's remorseful. So it's just like, it's that double-minded, what's going on, So you know it's wrong, but you still do it. You go back to it,
It kind of reminds me of the prime minister of Haiti right now.
Okay.
And a journalist was asking him a question. He was like, nah. All you do is bad news. This is bad news. You're spreading bad news. It's kind of like make me remind what he just said. He always talk bad about it.
Yeah, like I said, we could definitely look at this, and this is not Unfortunately, this is a very common, unfortunately, state of mind, disposition to be in, even when you have people in authority, right, that people are depending on.
He said he wanted to land in the Dominican Republic, and they said no.
Hmm. You want the same guy, the same prime minister?
Yeah, the president now in Haiti. He's out of the country. I think he's in Puerto Rico.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's being kept out of the country.
For his protection.
No, the people don't want him there.
What happened?
The people don't want him there. The guns, they say, if you come down, they said that he's gonna get killed. So
Right, that's what I mean. But for his protection.
Right.
Because if he stays, that's his behind. That's what I'm
But he
saying.
wants to go back.
Right. But
Of course.
Yeah, that's my country. I want to go back.
but people don't want you back. Now what?
The airport is I think that blocked up the airport.
But yeah, that's that discussion we can have on many fronts, right? As far as the way Esau has things going with our people and other dark nations trying to do things their way, and the problems that it leads to. But let me read. And Joseph had said, "Let not the king say so." Verse 9. Then the king of Israel called an officer and said, "Hasten hither Micaiah, the son of Imlah." So go get him. So they clearly got this guy. Boy, this Micaiah, man, we need to get more into his story, man, and the hardships he suffered at the hands of Ahab for doing his job. The king of Israel and Joseph, the king of Judah, sat each other on his throne, having put on their robes in a void place in the entrance of the gate of Samaria. And all the prophets prophesied before them, right? So they're all there, with the two kings, and sounds like a lot of pomp and circumstance, right? Like, oh, the king, yes, king. I have a vision for thee. I have a vision for you too, where it's like it's not even about like, okay, righteous judgment being done, but more like, okay, let me try to schmooze over the rulers. Let me try to get in good, right? By giving a good report, even if, like you were saying earlier, nothing being done but evil. It says, and Zedekiah, the son of Chenaanah, made him horns of iron and said, "Thus saith the Lord, or Yahweh, with these shalt thou push the Syrians until thou consume them." So even saying in the Most High's name, yes, I made these horns of iron, which these are symbolic in that what? You're going to push out the Syrians. Same way like an animal with horns, you use it to like shove a fellow animal or to shove things like a ram. Thou shalt push the Syrians until thou consume them. It's this elaborate, symbolic gesture, right? With these iron horns, right? One of those are anywhere, somewhere in some museum somewhere. Still out there. Maybe somebody has those in a kept up. So yeah, all these all this pomp, this pomp and like flashy prophetic gestures by these guys. But where's the righteousness? Because Micaiah, he doesn't need all that. All he needs is what, as we're going to see, the word and the word of the Lord to set the record straight on the decision that needs to be made when it comes to this battle. We read on to verse 12. And all the prophets prophesied, so saying, "Go up to Ramothgilead and prosper, for Yahweh shall deliver it into the king's hand." So
it's like those guys, they fake,
Yeah.
When they do the two horns, it's a calculated move. Two kings.
Yeah, they can sell it all types of ways, right?
Yeah, two kings,
Mm-hmm.
two horns. Man, two kings, two horns, two powerful men.
Mm-hmm.
We got them.
Right.
They come together. That's the prophecy.
Right. Yeah, these little flashy gestures,
I think
It's hard out here for a prophet of the Lord, man. It's real hard out here for a prophet of the Lord. As we see with Micaiah, as we see with Elijah. Let's see, verse 13. And the messenger that was going to call Micaiah, that was that Zedekiah brother, spake unto him, saying, "Behold, now the words of the prophets declare good unto the king with one mouth. Let that word, I pray thee, be like the word of one of them, and speak that which is good." So, already trying to dictate to him. Listen, man, we know you always got something bad to say. just go along, just go with the flow. Say what everyone else is saying. Don't be, an outlier. Don't be one to try to, mess things up as far as they're concerned.
They say, yeah, listen, you know, for consent. Everybody's already thinking good about the king. So be ready to do the same thing. You don't mess things up, you know?
Right. Verse 14, it says, and Micaiah said, as Yahweh liveth, what Yahweh saith unto me, that will I speak. So he's still staying on the square. Amid all the affliction we know he's been through, right? Suffering he's undergone. Just for speaking the truth. He said, look, the Most High told me, that will I speak. Right? Verse 15. So he came to the king, and the king said unto him, Micaiah. Now we can't see his face, but I can only imagine when he came to that. I can see King Ahab on the throne, just looking and just kind of like his face probably just kind of showing that, not to say frustration, but just like nervousness, or just like this, like a suspecting face, like, oh God, I can already expect the worst from him. He's gonna mess this up. He's not gonna say yes. He's gonna say something I don't want to hear. Like just that lowered expectation. But once again, it's like, but King Ahab, what are you doing? What are you saying? Is it on point? Is he wrong, really? Come on. It says, shall we go against Ramothgilead to battle, or shall we forbear? And he answered him, go and prosper, for Yahweh shall deliver it into the hand of the king. Right? So he tried to bear with them. He tried to, Micaiah tried to humor him, right, with what he wanted to hear, right? Very indirectly. But now it says in verse 16, and the king said unto him, how many times shall I adjure thee, that thou tell me nothing, but that which is true in the name of Yahweh? So it's just like, you asked for the truth. I tell you the truth. Throw me in prison. You beat me, right? It's like, but now you tell me. It's like he already knows he's gonna say something bad. So it's just situations is just crazy. Because it speaks to Micaiah. He can sympathize with Micaiah what he's going through. But then with King Ahab, where it's just like I said today, they use a term like cognitive dissonance, where it's just like you know the truth, but you tell yourself a lie. Try to keep both ideas in your mind at the same time. So now you even scolding the righteous prophet for not telling you the bad news, when clearly you're gonna put him under more suffering if he tells you what you need to hear as opposed to what you want to hear. So he's stuck.
Right. It's like the spirit jump on them right there. Like when it's like kind of like when you were king, kind of like the same thing that happened to the sister when she went and see the king.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't go in front of the king like that because he's larger than life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then she was able to present herself, and then the king's heart just like changed right then and there. The Most High changed the king's heart, and that kind of like the same thing. I mean, it happened to Ahab right there. Even though he tell him what he wants to hear, but the spirit jump on him and say, "Nah, that can't be right. That can't be right."
You think that's what it was? Okay.
That can be right.
Because I mean, I can definitely say that he's definitely a man at war with himself, And like I said, it could happen. It can and has happened to us all. We get into a place of duplicity. On one matter, could be a number of matters where we're duplicitous in our own mind, where we're kind of like on the fence, realizing one thing but then doing the opposite. So it's all a learning lesson, right? So now in verse 17, right? So he's like, okay, you give me lead to actually speak what the Lord told me to say. All right, well, get ready. Here it comes. And he said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills as sheep that had not a shepherd. And Yahweh said, these had no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. So that gives him the vision, the actual vision, right? Now, I can see this in my mind's eye as I read it. You got the Ahab and Josaphat on their throne. Now I'm seeing, after he says this, now I'm seeing Ahab lean back in his throne, look over to Josaphat like, and it says this, did I not tell thee that he would prophesy no good concerning me, but evil, right? So like look at leaning over like, see, I told you this guy was going to do that. I told you. I told you. Well, why you mad at him though? You asked for it. Oh boy. Read on to verse 19. And he said, so now he's got more to tell him. So there's more to that vision. Because as we're going to see, kind of what you quoted earlier in Jeremiah 28, Kahan, we're going to see who's telling the truth and who's telling a lie amongst the prophets. We're going to see if Micaiah is a yes man like the rest, or if he's delivering him the true message. You know, kind of makes you think of too a little bit, to make like a movie reference. Kind of makes you think of that movie Book of Eli, for you guys that if any guys that saw it, where you got Denzel Washington's character who's like supposed to be based on Elijah in a manner of speaking, right? But in a dystopic time, in a post-apocalyptic future. Then you got Gary Oldman's character, who's like the guy who wants to, he's like the false king, if you will, the false ruler that knows the truth, but then wants to use it to control the people, to where they get the upper hand on Eli, who's Denzel's character, where he falls down and he actually shoots them. He gets his hit, and people argue about why he was able to actually to get hit, since he's supposed to have God's protection, right? But he kind of leans over when he's laid on the ground. Gary Oldman's character, who's like the one who wants to control the people with the Bible, and leans over when he's laying down like hurt, and he says like, "Pray for me," right? Like he asked him to pray for him, where it's just like, what? So it's like you clearly want to take this guy out who's going to threaten your rule, but you ask him to pray for you, showing that the Gary Oldman's character, the bad guy, he knows that he's on point. You know what I mean? Hence him asking for prayers, even though this guy's clearly on the road to destruction. And if you guys have seen the movie, you know how Gary Oldman, how his character ends up getting the situation that he gets caught up in is like poetic justice, if you will. It's like the way he gets stuck when you see the movie. It's rather amusing, but it's like a perfect example of you're reaping what you sow in the end. You can't escape it. But yeah, but back here in the scriptures, so let's hear what more of this vision that the prophet Micaiah had. It says in verse 19, and he said, "Hear therefore the word of Yahweh. I saw Yahweh sitting on his throne, and all his hosts of heaven, standing by him on his right hand, on his left." So we always use this story too to show, like we do in Job chapter 1 and verse 6, also Job chapter 2 and verse 1. You can link with the 22 and 19. We don't have to get it. But when you read the scriptures, as opposed to what we were taught in the Christian religion, if we grew up in that, even if we didn't grow up in that, but we kind of heard about it, they have this story, this doctrine, they call it the Great Controversy, where they say that, oh yeah, there was a conflict in the third heaven, and God cast out, Satan, whose name at that time was Lucifer, and yet other angels that followed him, and they were cast out of the third heaven to where they could never go back. But when you read the scriptures, that's not true. Lucifer's not talking about spiritual Satan, and the devils go in and out of the third heaven all the time, according to the Most High's will. He has angels on the right hand and on the left to handle matters of creation and destruction, good deeds and bad deeds concerning our people and all the other nations, as far as what should happen on the earth and things like that. But when you read Job 1 and 6 as well, 2 and 1, you see those different conversations the Most High has with spiritual Satan. You see it to be the truth. You go, oh, so here's the actual relationship. It's not what I was taught coming up in Christian school, that the devil's out here, lurking around, him and his demons, this, that, and the third. But no, they go up and down all the time, and they all answer to the Most High. They're not out here doing their own thing. So that's what we're taught.
Also, for verse 17 and 18, right? You can link up Numbers 27, 16, and 17.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
22,
because
17.
What Prophet Micaiah was telling Acab and Josaphat is nothing new. It's something that's already in Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The Most High doesn't never double talk. What he tells the children of Israel before, now, and after, it's always the same thing. Playing going around. So that's pretty much the same thing. The same thing that the prophet prophesied here, it's the same thing that Moses was saying, the Most High told Moses, right? In Numbers 27, 16, and 17.
Con, you want to read that?
Con, I can read it.
Yeah, but this Bible has that precept here as well.
Con. It says, and Moses spake unto the Lord, saying, let the Lord, the power of the spirit of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, which may go out before them, and which may go in before them, and which may lead them out, and which may bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord be not as sheep which have no shepherd.
So different times, but the same judgment.
But it was the same law.
They apply this even now, right?
Right.
We're like a sheep without a shepherd. No doubt. I thought about the one in Zechariah too, but I said, let me just go on with the story as far as the prophecy pertaining to Christ, which kind of indirectly relates to what we're talking about. But the verse I'm thinking about, I have to get it, but Zechariah 13:7, which Christ actually fulfilled, where it talks about striking the shepherd and the sheep shall scatter, right? But as far as that's for verse 17, Numbers 27, 16 and 17, you can also write down Zechariah 13:7. But back in 22 and 19, I referenced Job 1 and 6, 2 and 1. You read that those first couple chapters, it goes into the actual dynamic that happens in the third heaven, where the angels and the devils, the good angels and the evil angels, they go back and forth from here to up there to handle whatever matters need to get handled, from the smallest things to the grandest things. From the insect world to the smallest ant down to the small organisms to grand kingdoms with wealth and riches, and matters even dealing with like we see Esau in outer space and all sorts of stuff. All these things in the third heaven, they had meetings on it, right? To say, okay, based on the choice of men who all had their time in the sun, from this nation to that nation, based on their choices, you're going to get either angels or devils, good angels or evil angels sent to you to either assist you or to help you in your, they say, mutually assisted destruction, to help you destroy yourself. Because they only come to help or hurt based on your choice. That's for all nations, Israel notwithstanding. But you have to tell it to people for them to really see it and go, oh, that's what's really going on? Because according to the lies we've been told, Satan was kicked out. He can't go back. And we're going to see that proof of that as we read on in the story, or in the story, scriptures, based on this vision that he's having, like a sneak peek into a meeting that was happening in the third heaven concerning the matter of going to battle in Ramothgilead.
Right. And in that scripture, in the 16, some might say, well, it says, see, it says the God of the spirit of all flesh. See? It said all flesh. The God of the spirit. It's the God of everybody, yes. But a lot of his inheritance is Jacob, like we read.
Right. Kind of. Made all things, but then Israel is his favorite, the apple of his eye. And no one can get around that metaphor, right? That we like to use with the Shakespeare quote where he says, "All the world is stage, and the men and women merely players," right? Or actors. When we say the Most High, he's the playwright. He's pretty much wrote the story. He's the producer. He's all that. Right? He written, produced, directed by the Most High, right? He's got all his players on the stage, and they all play different roles. And we watch movies, read books, right, all the time. We say, "Oh man, I love so and so, right? Look what they went through and they overcame." And you read the story. "Oh, I hate so and so. He's what a horrible villain. Oh man, I hate his guts." I know it's not real, but just as I'm watching the story or reading the book, it's like, oh, this girl, she's horrible. But it's like the Most High can't do the same thing. Most High can't write his own story called reality and make a hero and make a villain, a protagonist, antagonist, right? Is that too far? Is that too hard for the Lord to do the same? We do it all the time as men and women when we write our own stories. See, they can't get around that metaphor because it just makes too much sense because that's just what it is. But in verse 20, back at 1 Kings 22, and Yahweh said, who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramothgilead? So as he's telling the story, we pretty much get the within the story, we pretty much get the judgment right here. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. But now, how and why won't King Ahab have victory? It says one said on this manner, another said on that manner. 21, and there came forth a spirit and stood before the Lord, or Yahweh, and said, I will persuade him. So let's think of it as like a heavenly court. Like on this level, we have like our courts, where you get like a prosecutor, defense attorney, and they discuss a matter, right, for a person, whatever crime was committed, right? So we get that from what actually happened in the third heaven. Ours is just a watered down, corrupt version of that. At least when Israel was in power, our system was the most closely aligned with how it's done up there. But as the heathen had their time in the sun, they make something similar, but then certain things are changed around because it's of man, right? But you have a supreme court that's in the third heaven, where they discern and they discuss these matters, and the Elohim go back and forth on things. And the Most High, he's like that judge sitting on the throne that gives the final okay and says, all right, here's going to happen. You're going to do this. You're going to say that. Da, da, da. Adjourn the next case as different things happen in the earth. So he says, I will persuade him. The spirit came forth and went before the Most High and said, I'll persuade him. 22, and the Lord said, or Yahweh said unto him, wherewith or how? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. Check it out, let you know. Right hand, good angels and evil angels in the heavenly realm. This one being a lying spirit, right? So how can if the Satan and all his, fallen angels, quote unquote, were kicked out, how is a lying spirit even up there? And as we're going to read, the Most High is going to give him commission to do what he's about to say. He says, I will go forth and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, so the Most High responds to this lying spirit, thou shalt persuade him and prevail also. Go forth and do so. So now the Most High signs off on it and says, all right, cool. I permit it. I'll allow it. Court's adjourned, pretty much.
Like Amos 3 and 6, right?
Right. You can link that to verse 22 and 22. Amos 3 and 6. If you want to read it, you can.
Amos 3 and 6 read, shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and the Lord have not done it? Surely the Lord will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servant the prophets. Because to know this, to understand this, is a secret of the Most High. Because not everybody can understand this. People think, evil is happening outside of the Most High's control.
Right.
That's not true. But he reveal how he gets things done. So we understand if something done in wicked, somebody get killed, the Most High knows everything that's happened. Nothing escapes his judgment.
There you go.
And that's a secret because nobody sees that. Not everybody, the entire world don't know it that way.
Right.
Only those who do the law, statutes, and commandments, who desire to know the Most High's secret, would understand this.
That's true. To go with that, since we're talking about this milk topic, right? Most High controls evil. Isaiah 45 and 7. Isaiah 45 and 7, which we find ourselves bringing up a lot of times at camp, and oftentimes we can't get off the point because folks will fight tooth and nail with the idea, with the concept, and not be able to receive it, either due to just them being blind, or them just willfully rebelling against it because it goes against what they've been taught their whole life, and they want to keep holding on to that lie. And they say, "Oh no, my God is a good God. He's only a God of good." Of course, the Most High is perfect. His law is perfect, yes, but He created all things for their purpose. Which we're going to read. It's like going back to the playwright in the written, produced, and directed, by example. I can write a horrible character in a play, in a story, right? And have them act on stage and do all the horrible things. What's that got to do with me as the director, me as the writer, me as the producer?
Nothing. You just act. You just act the script.
But when they hear us bring out this truth, it's like we're minimizing Yahweh. So we're putting him in a box. We're saying he's like lesser than because he controls evil. Like he himself is evil because he controls evil. It's just like no, you're not getting it. It's not how that works. So this is Isaiah. Let me get my verses, and then I got you. Isaiah 45 in verse 7. It says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, Yahweh, do all these things.
Right.
Can't get around that.
All these things are tools in the hand of the Most High.
What you gonna do? You're gonna hoop and holler and jump down, up and down. Not my God, not my Jesus. Because people will have a fit after reading a verse like that. And they may try to say it's Isaiah, Old Testament, but they won't even do that because they love Isaiah because Christ is all up in Isaiah. The so-called Christians love Isaiah. Just like they love the Psalms and the Proverbs. We show them stuff in Isaiah, Psalms, and Proverbs that make them almost flip, lose their wig. They're like, oh, that's in Psalms. Oh. But this is Proverbs 16 and 4, right? Along those same lines. After that, I got one more, and then y'all kind of got you. So this is Proverbs 16 and 4, where it says, the Lord or Yahweh made all things for himself, yeah, even the wicked for the day of evil. So all of it belongs to the Most High, from the good days to the bad days, right? Rise and fall of kingdoms, everything's on his watch. And then I keep talking about evil angels. Let's let the Lord speak on it. This is Psalms 78 in verse 49, which we're going to get, we'll come back to this too as we get closer and closer to Hapasak, or the Passover, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is coming up, right, in about 6 weeks. So this is Psalms 78 and 49, which reads, we read above that he's the Most High, cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, and indignation, and trouble by sending evil angels among them. You read above in this psalm is talking about the Most High delivering our people out of Egypt and then coming against the Egyptians. But it says sending evil angels among them. Who's sending? The Most High. Uh-oh. You better check that doctrine that you were told, that mythology you were told that was quote unquote Christianity. You better check it.
Jeremiah chapter 18, verse 1. The word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause thee to hear my words. Then I went down to the potter's house, and behold, he wrought a work on the wheel. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again, another vessel, as seemed good to the potter to make it. Then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, O house of Israel, cannot I do with you as this potter? Said the Lord. Behold, as the clay is in the potter's hand, so are ye in my hand, O house of Israel.
There you go. This is where Paul gets his reference from, right? When he refers back to this in Romans chapter 9, right? Sometimes he'll quote this. Sometimes he'll say, "Did not Isaiah say this?" Other times he won't even quote the quote. He won't even quote it, but make the reference. Like Christ do the same thing. He'll make a reference to something, and he won't break it down. He'll give the story or the parable or the metaphor, and then just walk off. It's like you got to be smart or wise enough to be able to make sense of what he said. If you read your scriptures, you'll be like, "Oh, right. Right, it said that in Jeremiah, what Paul's talking about. He talks about the, one vessel being made to honor, another one being made to dishonor. Be it directly or indirectly invoked. That same example. We are dust. We are nothing. We are but dust. We are but dust and clay. That's what we are, right? Made however the Most High intended for us to be it Israel, like you read in Jeremiah, or any of these other nations. So let's go back. So that's Jeremiah 18, 1 and 6, Psalm 78 and 49, Proverbs 16 and 4, Isaiah 45 and 7, and Amos 3 and 6, all to go with 1 Kings 22 and verse 22, where we left off. And then now verse 23, where Micah is going to bring it all together, where he says, in verse 23, back in 1 Kings chapter 22, now I'm in verse 23. Now therefore, behold, Yahweh hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these thy prophets, and Yahweh hath spoken evil concerning thee. So you want it, you got it. You wanted the truth? There it is. And then, he's already braced himself because he's like, I told him the truth, but I already know it's not going to end well for me. So these guys can't handle it. They're not willing to. So here we go. But Zedekiah, the son of Cheanah, went near and smote Micah on the cheek, so put hands on the prophets, right? Popped them in his face. And said, which way went the spirit of Yahweh from me to speak unto thee? Right? So look at this proud man, just boasting, talking about, the spirit left me to come to you to say that, right? But now check out Micah's response, right? Did he go and get carnal with him and try to fight him back? But he's just going to hit him with the judgment of God. Let's see. It says, in Micah said, behold, thou shalt see in that day, when thou shalt go into an inner chamber to hide thyself. Now, check that out. I already know. I don't know how this man Zedekiah, when he said that, how he responded in that moment. Maybe he heard that and was just like, all right, whatever. Or maybe looked at, maybe he had like a spook look, like, what do you mean by that? Right? To where he heard it. Sometimes you hear something somebody says, doesn't really register until whenever this happened later on in the future. And then he's in that inner chamber, and then all of a sudden, like, it comes back to memory. We're under attack, we're under siege. That prophet I slapped, he said this would happen. Here I am in my inner chamber to hide myself from whatever destruction is coming, whatever bad thing has happened, because clearly, why are you going into an inner chamber to hide that stuff? Clearly, it's not something good is happening. But clearly, Micah is speaking to, I got your card too. I know what you got coming too, bro. So, slap me and talk trash all you want, but Most High's word will be done before it's all said and done. So you got something coming too. What you about to say?
Or maybe it's gonna hide in the chamber and see everything out there, and he's protected. I don't know, good.
Well, that would be his hope. That would be Zedekiah. This brother Zedekiah. That'll probably be his hope. But we know more than likely it's not going to turn out like that, because he's in league with Ahab, King Ahab, putting hands on the Most High, causing the prophets harm, which we know Psalms 104 and 14 says, touch not my prophets, cause them no harm. So he got himself messed up right here on this one. So told him that cryptic message, right? Which probably didn't really register, or probably heard it, but he's like, what does he mean? What's he talking about? Is that gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? Because there's a lot of duplicity with King Ahab, and of course with his men that he has rule over, because they're like unto him. Since he's in charge, they probably take on a similar thing where it's like they know what's wrong, they know what's right, but they still do wrong, and then like dare folks to try to speak up against right. So to hear a prophet tell you that thing must be eerie as all get out, where it's just like, oh man, I got something to look forward to too, and it's not good. So reading on to verse 26, and the king of Israel said, take Micah and carry him back to Amon the governor of the city, and to Joash the king's son, and say, thus saith the king, put this fellow in the prison and feed him with the bread of affliction, with the water of affliction, until I come in peace.
What verse you
I just read 27. Now I'm in 28.
Till I come in peace.
But keep in mind too, right? The Most High setting this, and the Most High's judgment comes within the time that He set. And there's a series of events that must happen before the judgment taking place. You know, when the Most High said He was going to make,
Right.
you know, dog eat his carcasses, right? It's a lot of things happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right after then life was good for him. You know, right after the kingdom was going. Then a certain set of events had to happen to bring him to that, you know, to that prophecy being fulfilled.
Right, no doubt. And it's still to come, but we're gonna read it though. But see this here? This is like we should think of like almost like Pharaoh, right? Where you got Pharaoh, like, and even King Saul too, to a certain extent, where it's like they had their moment of truth, but they come back to the realization, but then that wickedness is sown in their flesh, rises back up, and an unclean spirit is like, oh, you're back. The fleshy side is like, okay, let me come help out. And the evil spirit come on them, where it's like, no, don't let them go. Don't let them go free, right? Or with King Saul, yeah, go after David. And his men are just like, all right, you know. But then you'll see those moments where like even like Pharaoh is like, yes, I'll let you guys go. You know, great is your God, you know.
Right.
But then the heart be hardened again shortly after, and he's right back on that wickedness. It's like with King Saul. Alas, my son, right? You spared my life, my son, right? He goes back to, you know, his old self, where it's like, I love David, you know. Then the evil spirit comes back because of that wickedness he already got sown in his flesh to help him out with that decision he's still making. Because that's the thing that is easy to kind of put out of our mind, where we want to, you know, give up accountability in our own lives and say, oh, the devil made me. No, the devil has helped you along in your own decision. That's the realization. That sometimes is a hard pill to swallow. Sometimes you want to put that out of your mind, right? It's easy to just blame God or blame the devil or blame somebody else, blame people in your life. When no, it's your choice. Right. The devil has helped you along with that bad choice. Just like the angel helps you along with the good choice, right. The devil helps you along with the bad choice. Yeah. A lot of folks, they don't want to accept it. So, yeah. So now he's causing harm to the prophet as well. An actual prophet, talking about feeding with the bread of affliction, the water of affliction, right? Just to add insult to injury until I come in peace. So in his mind, yeah, those 400 prophets, they were right, but you, nah, I'm not listening to you. All right, let's see if this works out. Then it says in verse 28, which goes back to what you were quoting earlier in Jeremiah 28, right? Was it 8 and 9? Micaiah said, if thou return at all in peace, Yahweh have not spoken by me. And he said, hearken, O people, every one of you. So as he's getting taken back to the dungeon, wherever they're holding him at, he's like, I'm gonna put this out here, right? If what I said is wrong, we'll see what happens, everybody. So everyone, as a witness, hear this right now, right? As they take me back and, you know, mock me and do everything else. Hear what I said on the Most High's behalf, right? So yeah, plenty of witnesses. Then it says, verse 29. So the king of Israel and Josaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramothgilead. So they go into the battle, right? And the king,
You see a lot of you know, wars like now go on, but the kings don't go there. The leaders don't go there. They stay in the back.
Mm-hmm. Right, or
but
stay at headquarters.
You know, we as kings, we went to the war.
Yeah,
we were there. Yeah, I hear it over there. They're like thousands of miles away, you know.
Right, they're at headquarters, right? Or they're in some protected bunker, right? You gotta be thinking about the Alexander movie, right? Where they did at least there was Oliver Stone. He did his best job. He did the best job he could, at least, trying to pick the ancient battle formations. You see like Alexander on his horse, like getting the formations ready, and they show like what's his name, Darius. He's sitting like kind of in the middle section. Remember, you see him like as he's watching the battle unfurl from like an elevated position. He's like doing hand signals, like to get like, you know, his left flank to go forward, his left flank to come this way. So yeah, ancient warfare is a little different, right, than modern warfare. At least in some ways. Other ways it's the same. Some ways it's different. Yep. So yeah, they went out there. But now let's see what he still tries to do, right? Which just speaks to this double-mindedness, to the duplicity. Check out what he says in 30. King of Israel said unto Josaphat, I will disguise myself and enter into the battle, but put thou on thy robes. So if you already know that this Micaiah is talking smack and that he's just talking whatever, why disguise yourself? Right? If you're so confident that you know you're gonna win this battle, right? So it just shows you that double-mindedness, right? That he's dealing with. But put thou on thy robes, and the king of Israel disguised himself and went into the battle. So let's see what happens. Let's see if it helps. But the king of Syria commanded his 30 captains. Remember those guys you read about a couple chapters back, right? Was it Ben-Hadad, them guys? That had rule over his chariots, saying, fight neither with small nor great, save only with the king of Israel. So check this out. Kind of Most High is he's like the playwright. He's the puppeteer. He's got all the pieces on the table, moving in the direction that he wants. He's got the Syrian, the heathen they were fighting against. He's got them to single out the king of Israel, single out King Ahab, right? It says, and it came to pass when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat that they said, surely it is the king of Israel. Wait a minute, read it again. It came to pass when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, they said, surely it is the king of Israel. And they turned aside to fight against him. And Jehoshaphat cried out. So now they saw, like, they told him to put on his robe. That's what King Ahab told King Jehoshaphat before he went into battle, to put on his robes. So they saw a king. They didn't know what king it was. They went after him. It says that he cried out. It says in 33, and it came to pass when the captains of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. So they realized, oh, wait a minute. No, that's not who we want. So just showing how the Most High had everything orchestrated, even though, like we're going to see, Ahab disguised himself and that he's got King Jehoshaphat with them robes. The Most High is like, no, Jehoshaphat, I'm dealing with him on a different level based on his choices. He's not going to fall today. I told Micaiah to tell you, you're going to fall today. No matter all the things you try to do to try to prevent that, no, I'm coming for you. You're not gonna be able to hide from this.
But the judgment he made, this guy slick. Because he knows you struck the shepherd. You know what I mean? And you win. So automatically he set up Joseph.
Yeah.
He set him up. Because he
yeah. yeah.
Like, yo,
yeah.
They're gonna go after him.
Yeah.
Once they kill him, so I have be king over Judah and Israel.
Wow, that's not explicitly said, but could it have been a thought in his head? Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows?
This cat is slick, man. This cat is slick. It's like, yo, listen, man. Now I have the opportunity. Not only if I win the Syrians, then I can have all, both kingdoms under my wing.
Oh, so
and Joseph got his back regardless. He said, all right, no problem.
Right.
Because we're in this together. What do you say? My horses are your horses. My men are your men.
Right.
So there's two different northern and southern kingdom, right?
Yeah. Since first one.
Because it's like kings, the more they can enlarge the empire, the better. And they don't like competition, especially in their wicked mindset. He's in his wicked mindset. Everything is up for grabs.
Now, that's interesting notion you put out there, because it doesn't really say that specifically, but who knows?
Right.
If that didn't cross his mind, like,
But both of them are kings, though.
Yeah. But if I can take everything for myself, I become bigger.
But look at this.
But
as you're going to,
but either one of them are kings, and king of Israel, or the king of Israel, or king of Judah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's been split since way back, remember?
Right, because when somebody's in a wicked mindset, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Right, because that's why even what's his name, Levi and Simeon, the most I don't want them to be together in their wicked mindset, because they know they can do much damage. Because when you put the two wicked minds together, that's it, and they'll destroy a whole nation.
Yeah. Causes me to stick in the land, right? And we got more Canaanites coming after us. Should they deal with our such as with the harlot? It's a tough spot. When you read that story, it's like, damn, I understand Jacob, but I understand Simeon and Levi too. Like there was Chris Rock, he said, I wouldn't say, I didn't say, he said, I wouldn't say he should have did it, but I understand. I think what his stand-up, he always had that thing he would say. I'm not saying he should have did it, but I understand. It's one of those kind of scenarios, you know. But yeah, something to consider. But all in all, like I said before, Mosai, he's the one that has that ticket, that punch in, punch out ticket. He decides, right? And it wasn't Joseph, it wasn't King Joseph, that wasn't his day, right? To die, not like this.
Yeah. Because one more thing. Because if it was genuine, it would say, yo, let's both of us, take off our king clothes. You know what I mean? So
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't go after. But why you can keep yours? You know,
Oh man. Oh man, you know the Most High knows too for sure. But yet and still, he still extends that mercy because that's my people. He's the king.
yeah, it's like he's gonna stick out like a sore thumb, you know. Because if it's not good for him, why is it good for you? If it's not good for you, why is it good for him? Because you know why you're doing it. You know what I mean?
So Jehoshaphat is like, I don't know what's going to go on now, but I don't know. It may not look good for me, you know.
Because in regular situations, right? Like people get hit in the crossfire, right? We know Mosai is the author. He's he to him belong the issues of death. So even when a child dies, like a shootout or something, his back a straight bullet, we say, oh my God, it wasn't supposed to happen, but we know ultimately it is. And in the face of battle, you have all types of folks, just generally speaking, that probably weren't meant to die, so to speak, or that are mistaken for someone else. Like the scripture says, every battle is with confused noise, right? And garments rolled in blood. Like people are getting murked left and right that probably weren't even involved. They may be going out there to bring somebody some water, right? And they just get caught with an arrow, you know, just by happenstance. Like he was out there supporting troops. He wasn't even fighting. He ended up getting killed. But look how the Most High came through and like had these Syrians look, get him. He was an Israelite, not who they were looking for, and they still were like, no, we don't want him. Like how often would that happen in a battle, regularly speaking? You know what I mean? Generally speaking, how often would that kind of thing happen in a battle? They would kill him and then ask questions later, right? It would kill him and then take his robe, open up his thing and be like, oh, wrong guy, and he keep going. That's usually generally what would happen. This is show the Most High's power. He can intervene even in a situation where it's let me read the verse real quick.
Israelites, you know, it's a battle going on.
Right. Nations, you know? Right, but just to show that the power of the Most High, he can step in whenever he wants when he sets things in motion.
Right, because you see, you got there already in that verse. I don't want to jump ahead. What verse are you on
now? 33.
33, right? Because you read it already. Because when the Syrian king said, you know what, you gotta attack the king of Israel. Don't mind the people, don't mind the truth. You know, the aim is at the king of Israel, right? But now he took his clothes off. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So now they see him as the king of Israel. Mm-hmm. So it was like, you know what? Then that's when he cry out. So right. It's a setup.
Right. But then the Most High even still had his back to where it was like they even took time to consider and go, oh, it's not him.
Yeah.
Because they're warriors too. They know about decoys,
right.
And red herrings, and so they're men of war too. But even as men of war, sometimes things just go down in the heat of battle. And that's where this verse comes in. This is Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. Mostly the first precept here, but the last part more we're talking about what's going to come in the future. But Isaiah 9 and 5, it says, every battle of the war is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be a burning and fuel of fire, talking about the third world war that's to come. But the first precept, every battle of the war is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. So it's like, we don't know what's going on, right? A lot of times when things really start rolling. When you guys are approaching each other before the battle begins, okay, there's some clarity. But then as things progress on, a lot of stuff is going down. A lot of stuff is happening at once, and your hope is that you keep your wits about you. You You take out the enemy. You don't take any of your own soldiers out, right? You shouldn't be cognizant of all these different things that are happening in the heat of battle. But let me read 33 again, back in 1 Kings 22. And it came to pass when the captains of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. But now check this out. Check this out. Like they say, that the people say in today's time, that bullet had your name on it. Check this out. Verse 34, and a certain man drew a bow at a venture, right? So just happenstance, right? He himself didn't even know what he was doing probably, but the Most High was like, whoop, whoop, whoop. and as we're going to read, and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness. Wherefore he said unto the driver of his chariots, turn thine hand and carry me out of the host, for I am wounded. So Moses still had that arrow with his name on it to find him, even though he was disguised. Even though he had his fellow king, Josephat out there dressed up like the king, right? Even still, the Most High had his judgment go down, no matter how much he wanted to try to obscure it.
Like they were saying in ancient battle, the arrow and the crossbow, those were like, deadly, because he was like at a long distance,
Mm-hmm. Right.
Be so close, you have to do that long distance, with the arrow, so that let me put fire at the end of it, or the crossbow, or the machine, long arrow to just shoot into an enemy's territory, long distance.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And with close combat, like with a sword or with a spear, you're in proximity with your enemy. You can at least kind of use your senses to kind of parry, to dodge, to dodge the attack. Whereas with the arrow, you kind of have to have a sense for it, like, oh great, like something coming, and maybe you might hear it, but by the time you hear it, it's moving so fast, you have very little reaction time. You might be able to turn and say, is that? And before you can even turn, whap, it's in your neck, or whap, it's in your chest, or it got you. So yeah, as far as like what do you call it, ranged battle.
Yeah, one more. Even the movie Gladiator, before they do the battle sword to sword,
Mm-hmm.
they did a lot of arrows just going over. They shot a lot of arrows first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it went into the ground attack.
Yeah, at least unless you can see where it's coming from, at least you have some time to either dodge or use a shield or whatnot. But they're coming from different directions. If you're facing the opposite way, how you gonna spot an arrow coming from behind you?
Yeah, fire at the end of it too.
And then you got even with like assassination attempts. I'm not sure if they really did too much in battle, but I know that with assassination attempts, they would poison tip the arrows too.
Like I said, the crossbow, you can put it steady up, you can aim it steady.
Mm-hmm. Just imagine a poison tip arrow, right? Just comes at a venture where you're not even expecting it. You just feel the pain, and all of a sudden it's like, oh. And then by the time, depending on where you're at, if you can get to like a doctor or somebody in time, that's it. You're done. So yeah, in verse 35, and the battle increased that day, and the king was stayed up in his chariot against the Syrians, and died at even, and the blood ran out of the wound into the midst of the chariot. So by the time someone down that day of battle, he was gone.
Right.
Back home.
Yeah, he lost so much blood. So once you lose your blood, that's it. The battle is finished. That's why sometimes when people get shot, most of the time it's not the bullet that kills you, depending on where it hits in your organ. It's the blood. You lose so much blood, right. And then the oxygen go out, and you're done.
No, you're right.
Blood.
Yeah.
You're right. Because even before they remove the bullet later, the first goal usually is to stop the bleeding. However you can do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Life is in your blood.
Exactly. It says, and there went a proclamation throughout the host. I'm in 36. About the going down of the sun, saying, every man to his city and every man to his own country. Boom. So Micaiah, prophet of the Lord, wins the day. Better yet, the truth of the Lord wins the day. I'm not even sure Mike K was trying to beat his chest on that. I'm sure Mike K in his heart of hearts would want King Ahab to choose better, right? To not even try to fight this battle, try to, clean up his own house as far as how he governed. But what his like he told the people back in verse 27 and 20 back in 28, he said, "Thou returnest all in peace. The Lord has spoken by me." And he said, "Hearken, O people, every one of you." So a lot of folks are feeling salty right now. They're saying, "Dang, that prophet was right. Here we are."
Yeah, who's doing this proclamation? It doesn't matter.
It's just word of mouth. It's word of mouth.
Where? What verse?
Verse
No,
36. Because word got out. Oh man, the king is dead. So everyone go back.
On either side.
Yeah. So word. So they're just pretty much like, it's like you're in a group of people. And it's like, everybody dip. We're gonna dip. People leave. Go different ways. But the point I'm getting at is, it's just like the prophet said, but they didn't want to believe him, or they want to talk bad on him, slap him, send him back to the prison.
Word of affliction.
So now, who was right? And if you ask Mike K right now, he would say, "Look, I don't want any props. It's the Most High that was right. Right? The Most High was right all along about this." And there's more judgment that has to happen, because now we're dealing with Mike K laid out. But we can't forget about what Elijah laid out too. Right? Like you were saying earlier, right? That still has to come to pass. So reading on in 37 now, it says, "So the king died and was brought to Samaria, and they buried the king in Samaria." So at least he got burial. "And one washed the chariot in the pool of Samaria, and the dogs licked up his blood, and they washed his armor according to the word which Yahweh had spoken." So just like he told him, the dogs will lick up his blood, right? So that's what went down, like we read about before, or read about earlier, back in chapter 21. Let me see something real quick. 20 and 42, what's this? Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, you can link 21 and 19 with this, right? So 1 Kings 21 and 19, where it says, "And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith Yahweh, hast thou killed and also taken a possession? And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith Yahweh, in the place where dogs lick the blood of Naboth, shall dogs lick thy blood, even thine." So there it is. So 1 Kings 21 and 19 to go with 22 and 38. Once again, like I quoted it earlier, Galatians 6 and 7, right? "Be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap." So that's always the case, even going back to in this time. But let's read on. It says, in 39, "Now the rest of the acts of Ahab, and all that he did in the ivory house which he had made," so he had an ivory house built, okay, "and all the cities that he built, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel?" So remember, these stories are just honing on specific things. But we talk about the reign of a king or a ruler. There's a lot that happens, right? The scriptures will touch on certain key things, but they won't touch on all those details all the time, right? Because it's too much. But I guess in the kingdom we could probably go into those finer volumes and get more insight into the other things that might have been considered more mundane, or less significant, at least that would be weren't considered worthy to have in the scriptures. Because what the Most High has for us is enough for us to really eat and consume and to consider. So just imagine all the things that are not written that are still recorded.
Yeah, even the book of Esther, they had their chronicles too. They had their books.
Mm-hmm.
The things that they have done, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And they search their history too.
Yeah.
To find out when they wanted to promote Mordecai.
And then ledgers.
Yeah.
You know, kingdoms kept ledgers too, right? I know Kampa, you could probably you and your brother can relate to this, right? As far as the story a ledger would tell, right? You deal with the financial matters, you deal with like a financial statement, right? For an estate or for an individual, right? Just a story that it tells. Even if they try to piece together history of things that happened in early America with the slavery and things like that. Oftentimes, the way they're able to figure out a lot of things is by going to the plantation, trying to find that ledger if it's still intact. Right after Civil War, a lot of stuff got burnt up, but they could find the ledger that the plantation master kept. It went into like asset liability co-op and stuff, like same stuff we do now, right? Just done by hand, but it was the same process. You'll see, you know, all different things that he had, and then you'll have people on that thing too, names of people, just like, oh damn, that's us. Wow, they got people's names as like an asset, right? Because we're the top asset, still are, even though they'll try to say we're not. Even above, real estate, to have slaves, that was like a prime asset to have, right? But that in and of itself will tell the story when you go into like the records in those chronicles, right? Of what was happening there.
Some library that some library, some police library that was in Brooklyn got burned down a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to destroy the records or something. Even Al Capone, how wicked Al Capone was, he had a bookkeeper,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to like get his bookkeeper,
Mm-hmm.
to convict him.
There you go. When in doubt, seek the ledger. So in verse 40, it says, so Ahab slept with his fathers, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. Now reading 1 of 41, it says, and Josaphat the son of Asa, so we already know about Asa, we read about him before as far as the and we'll touch on him again until we get into Chronicles, as far as him being righteous, but then towards the end of his reign, he had an issue with the trusting of physicians more than God, right? He leaned more towards them as opposed to the Most High, who made the physician, right, to heal. That was kind of like a stain on his name. Mm-hmm. So he's the son of Asa, right? If we're looking at the succession from Solomon on down, right? So now we're going to get into Josaphat a little bit. It says the son of Asa began to reign over Judah in the 4th year of Ahab, king of Israel. So we saw long King Ahab reign. So him and Ahab were contemporaries for quite some time, right? Reigning during the same time period. It says in 42, Jehoshaphat was 30 and 5 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 20 and 5 years in Jerusalem, right? So he had a pretty long reign. And his mother's name was Azubah, the daughter of Shilai, or Shilhai. And then anytime we read what it talks about, the king and who he was the son of, it says he reigned this many years. We always look forward to the line where it says, and he did that which was, right? That's always a line we look forward to, kind of with anticipation and a little anxiousness too. The hope being that it says, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, right? So when you read that, it's like a relief. But then if it comes up and it says, and he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, then it's like a you need to read on, it's just like all you do is shake your head like, oh no, not again. He built high places. Oh God. Offered his kids to the fire. Oh my God, no. He allowed the Sodomites to do their thing. No.
I did it for the people.
Right. was it the Running Man, remember? We tell them what to eat, what to drink, what to wear. What do we do? We give them what they want. Remember? Remember that? It was the guy who used to be the Family Feud host. He was the bad guy. Richard Dawson, that guy. You remember Richard Dawson? He was the bad guy in the Running Man. He's talking about, we give them what they want. Like, we go with the mob pretty much. The mob seeks entertainment, and we give it to them, even at their own expense. Okay, I guess you never saw that. That's why you're looking at me clueless, like, huh? Sorry. If you see it again, it might refresh your memory.
So Jehoshaphat was righteous. Ahaz was righteous too.
I'm about to read it. It says, and he walked in all the ways of Asa his father. He turned not aside from it, doing that which was right in the eyes of the Lord. Nevertheless, the high places were not taken away, for the people offered and burnt incense yet in the high places. So there's the levels to that righteousness, right? To where, okay, he himself is on point, right? Do what he's supposed to do. But then it's like, when it comes to the king, the Most High also expect for you to enforce that on others as well, which some kings do, other kings don't, right? At least in this case, he allowed the high places to remain. So it's almost like you having that authority, but you're now allowing it, right?
That's what they want to do,
Right, that's how to explain it today. I don't get in people's way. You want to live your life. That's fine. You go ahead and do that. It's like a common thing now. People just talk that. Hey, you want to eat this and sleep with this person. You want to do that in the privacy of your own home. That's fine. Go ahead. But the Most High, when it came to our rulership, is like, oh, no. Anything that was wicked, you weren't to allow that. And even if it was be done in secret, I would reveal it to you, and then look to you as the king to say, okay, we're going to do about it. You're going to do it. Going to be a man after my heart and follow through and take those places away, or you're going to allow them to persist. So it says, the high places were not taken away, for the people offered and burnt incense yet in the high places. It says in 44, and Josephat made peace with the king of Israel. And I think when you read it, Chronicles kind of goes into that a little bit as well, as far as the
What tribe was he again?
Who?
Jehoshaphat. What tribe?
He was the line of David,
Oh,
king of Judah.
I was gonna tell you that.
The northern tribes were the ones that switched families a lot, like from Issachar to Ephraim but the line of kings was always Judah. It was always David.
You're gonna see that when he gets buried, they bury him in the city of David.
Yeah, so folks that are familiar, yeah. When it comes to the Southern Kingdom, they were always in that line of David. I thought that was like common sense.
No, I gotta go look. I have to go look back at the kings again. Which king? Judah, Israel.
The only ones that switched families was the northern tribes. In one case, it might have been like from Jeroboam, and then he switched to like Baasha. I think his family was from Issachar, and he switched back to Ephraim again, but from a different family. Was it Omri? I think his family. So you read through the kings for the northern tribes, that's when it switched families. But as far as the southern kingdom, it was always David's line, all the way up to the destruction.
Okay.
I thought that was apparent. I guess not. Mm-hmm. So it says, and Josephat made peace with the king of Israel, which we know that really couldn't really be true peace, because King Ahab wasn't at peace with himself, right? Ahab was a man at war with himself, with righteousness and wickedness, and him leaning more towards wickedness than righteousness, unfortunately. But yet, let his deeds be weighed in the balance, right? His good and his evil, just like we ask for all of us, all of our souls.
I know sometimes with the southern kingdom wanted to deal with the northern kingdom and say, come, let's come together or something. And another kingdom is like, nah, we're gonna do our own thing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like he sought that and tried to be amiable to him, but at the same time, it's just like it's not going to work unless the northern kingdom gets with the Most High too.
Yeah,
Hence, we see the situation with this battle, and just how this would have been totally different had he actually said, you know what, let me get on point, like how Josephat is with following the Most High. Let me get my priests, these crazy priests that are set up that aren't even in the house of Levi. Let me get some Levite priests. Imagine if he started making some motions like that, where it's just like, okay, look, we'll be separate kingdoms. We'll talk about, going under you, but at least let's get our priests on point. Think about how much more the Most High would have done for King Ahab. or for any of the kings for that matter, you know. So it's just something to consider. Yeah, the Most High gives us that choice, you know. But read it on in verse 45. It says, "And the rest of the acts of Josaphat and his might that were showed, and how he warred, are that written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah?" Right. So two kingdoms, and you've got two chronicles, right, to go to, right? And we have those in records that we can look at as well, and to read and to consider. Which I'll get one real quick, because I don't want to go into it too much. We get in the chronicles, we'll get to go into it, and then we'll go back to kings as necessary. But let me just get this real quick in Second Chronicles 18. So the link with yeah, that's the word to use, affinity. Yep. So link this with verse 44
Second Chronicles 18.
in verse 1. To link with 21 and 44. And I'll read this also in chapter 19, which we'll come back to this again, but I'll read it kind of as a sneak peek. But we'll revisit this as we go forward in First Kings. But Second Chronicles 18 and 1, it says, "Now Josaphat had riches and honor and abundance, and joined affinity with Ahab." Right, and as you read on, it goes into the same story about them going to fight against Ramothgilead. Right, but for sake of time, we won't go into the whole story. But you read the rest of this chapter, it goes into that. But then if you also go to 19, as far as the judgment, as far as him dealing with King Ahab and that affinity that he had with him, this is Second Chronicles chapter 19. I'll start from 1 and read down just a little bit. It says, "And Josaphat, the king of Judah, returned to his house in peace to Jerusalem." It says in verse 2, "And Jehu, the son of Hanani, the seer, went out to meet him and said to King Josaphat, Shouldest thou help the ungodly and love them that hate Yahweh?" Talking about his affinity with King Ahab. Second Chronicles 19, I'm in verse 2 now. So it says, verse 2 again, "And Jehu the son of Hanani, the seer, went out to meet him and said to the king Josaphat, Shouldest thou help the ungodly and love them that hate the Yahweh? Therefore is wrath upon thee from before Yahweh." Verse 3, "Nevertheless, there are good things found in thee, in that thou hast taken away the groves out of the land, and prepared thine heart to seek God. And Josaphat dwelt at Jerusalem, and he went out again to the people from Beersheba to Mount Ephraim." So talking about the northern kingdom as far as their region, right? Or I should say his region that was in the south, right? Because Dan is the top of northern kingdom. Beersheba is at the very bottom of the southern kingdom. Mount Ephraim is like somewhere in the middle. You look on the map. "And brought them back unto the Yahweh power of their fathers." So it looks like he did a little bit, but I guess it was a thing where he didn't go all the way, right? As far as it looks like he says like here he took out the groves, but then he left certain high places. So it's like it's one of those things where you can never go far enough when it comes to pleasing the Lord. You want to make sure you at least establish the baseline, especially if you're a king, right?
Sometimes you get me confused about groves and high places, which is the difference.
I'm sure you got resources that could probably help you out with that if you want to get more into the depths, even though they're both tied into having other gods before me. Another little interesting tidbit about Josephat I want to read too right here. I like this verses 5 to 7. It says, "And he set judges in the land throughout all the fenced cities of Judah, city by city, and said to the judges, Take heed what ye do, for ye judge not for man, but for Yahweh, who is with you in the judgment. Wherefore now let the fear of Yahweh be upon you. Take heed and do it, for there is no iniquity with Yahweh our power, nor respect of persons, nor taking of gifts." So think about this experience that he had with King Ahab and how that situation went down, and that probably directly reinforced this idea, right? Something he probably already read, and he has that experience with Ahab to say, yeah, we want to make sure we definitely do this, on the south side, in the southern kingdom. Because I can clearly see how not doing this and the harm that has caused the northern kingdom, and it being a key factor to the fall of their king, King Ahab. It's kind of interesting to kind of see how those things, those dynamics kind of play into each other, right?
Santa Maria. Como Santa Maria.
Yeah, man. Yes, indeed. So yeah, judges all over, right? Like we talk about the neighborhood watch, you know. Some of them kind of been had Esau kind of had a hand in somewhat. Depending on what city you talk about. Like I think in New York, you guys had like the guardian angels, right? And that was a function they were at least were supposed to serve, as far as like a group of citizens that would kind of go around and kind of check on things. But then, when politics, corruption kind of comes in there, it kind of becomes something else. Just like we see with a lot of the different gangs that came about in the like slightly post civil rights era, like in the 70s, leading into the 80s. They started off as being one thing, but then due to us not dealing with the law, Esau with his FBI could come in and corrupt these things, and they became, pretty much organizations that would front drugs as opposed to what they were set up for originally, which was to protect the people from, police coming in there, police intervention, uh, them being pretty much just being strong armed. So they started one way, but then without the Most High's protection and guidance, they can easily become something else that'll serve Esau's purpose and wickedness.
Well, like back in the day, well, like they call it the Inquisition.
Talking about during the 1600s?
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing. They were like, see what people were doing in their private. What people were doing, they were going around checking on people what they're doing.
Okay.
They were checking, I guess, just checking on people. What they're doing, personal, and bring them to the states or something, or torture them.
Okay. You're reading that in like reference to what we just read about Joseph had setting judges to kind of go throughout the land to check on, to kind of be like a watchman. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, see how what people are doing.
But in what verse?
I think he's talking about what I read from verses 5 to 7. But I don't want to assume about Joseph had setting up judges to kind of to do like a watch to watch in the gates of the city. But let's go back to 1 Kings 22. I read those to link with verse 44. I read 2 Chronicles 18:1, as well as 19:1 to 4, and then I read 5 to 7. But we'll come back to 5 to 7 later, and 1 to 4 also, because we're going to see what comes after when we read on, not only after King Ahab, but also after King Josephat, after his reign is finished as well, as you read on in the Kings and Chronicles. But let me read 45. 1 Kings 22:45. It says, "Now the rest of the acts of Josephat and the might that he showed and how he warred, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah?" So you read those chapters. We just touched on a couple of verses. When you go there, you'll see those similar stories being reflected, especially the Ramothgilead battle. It says, which the remnant of the Sodomites which remained in the days of Asa, the days of his father Asa, he took out of the land. Right, that's kind of what that prophet Jehu was telling him. Right, there are good things found in there. Right, so I permitted certain things, but then also other things he followed through on and did his duty as a righteous king. So no LGBTQIA, elemental P, alphabet, blah, 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 He said, nope, y'all got to go. And all your perversion.
Lucky they weren't put to death,
It says, and there was no king in Edom, a deputy was king. That's another interesting tidbit, showing that I think that's going to come up again when we get into Second Kings, as far as Edom and them, at least during this time, not having a ruler or a king over them. It says in verse 48, Joseph had made 2 ships of Tarshish to go to Ophir for gold, right? Because remember, Ophir was known for its gold when you go into that place. So going to them now doing trade. Kind of read about this, I think, last time, going back to Solomon. But yet other kings that would do this as well. Let's say the other ones didn't, but it's just they weren't known or wasn't mentioned specifically. But it seems to be when the more you have a righteous king, the more you see that they get to build and expand, right? Because they're not constantly at war, right? If they are at war, they're just pretty much reestablishing or reclaiming things that were theirs anyway, and then promoting growth. So you see economic development as opposed to just you putting out this fire, you're putting out that fire. So he made ships to Tarshish to go to Ophir for gold. He says, but they went not. It says, for the ships were broken at Ezion Geber, right? So they made these ships to go out there, but it says that they got broken up. And then it says, then said Ahaziah, the son of Ahab, unto Jehoshaphat, let my servants go with thy servants in the ships. But Jehoshaphat would not. Right. So we got to think in the Chronicles. I might touch a little bit into some more detail when we read this.
They built a ship, but the ship were never used for their purpose, and so they were just there because of the lack of use, and they were broken.
That's Spain, right?
Because they never got to use them for that purpose. So go out then and get the gold.
Solomon had navies.
Right. So when you have, like I said, righteous kings able to establish themselves, that's where the expansion and growth comes in, right? Or doing projects that will promote that growth. And with him sending out judges to go out in the land to make sure, righteous judgment was being carried forth, that's a righteous factor that could work, that will pretty much work in a positive direction for them, for that growth, right? Because you have to really clean up the house first before we can really hope to build and to expand. And the Most High has made sure to hold us to that standard.
The ship for goods, right? For goods and people, right?
What is that?
The ships.
The ships were to go and explore to get gold.
Oh.
That was the purpose, the main purpose of the ships.
Okay.
All right, so let's get this link too. And I said I wouldn't go to Chronicles, but let's just get it, just to get that the added insight, because it's kind of with the Gospels. One Gospel might be short with words, get to the point of it, but then another Gospel might give a little bit more edification. So, and I quoted 2 Chronicles 18 and 19. Go to 2 Chronicles 20 now. Because there's a battle that he fought that we won't get into, but I just want to go into this part we're talking about here. Let's start from let's start from 31. So Second Chronicles chapter 20 and verse 31, it reads, and Josaphat reigned over Judah. He was 30 and 5 years old when he began to reign. We read that in Kings. He reigned 20 and 5 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Azubah, the daughter of Shilhi, rather. And he walked in the way of Asa his father, and departed not from it, doing that which was right in the sight of Yahweh. Howbeit the high places were not taken away, for as yet the people had not prepared their hearts unto the power of their fathers. Now it says, now the rest of the acts of Josaphat, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of Jehu, the son of Hanani. That was the prophet we were talking about before, that went to him and approached him about him trying to ally himself with King Ahab, an ungodly king, right? It says, and after this did Josaphat, king of Judah, join himself with Ahaziah, the king of Israel. Remember, it tells you that Ahab only lived for a certain period of time, right? And I think this says that Josaphat came into power the fourth year of Ahab's reign. So after King Ahab died, it says he allied with him with his son, which was Ahaziah, the one that came next. It says, who did very wickedly. So sadly, Ahab's son's going to do wickedly as well. We already know, as we're going to read, the judgment that's going to fall upon him when we go down. As you go further on, I should say in Kings, it says in verse 36, he joined himself with him to make ships to go to Tarshish, and they made the ships in Ezion Geber, referring to that same place we read about in Kings. Then it says in 37, then Eliezer the son of Dodavah, Marisha, prophesied against Josaphat, saying, because thou hast joined thyself with Ahaziah, Yahweh have broken thy works. And the ships were broken, that they were not able to go to Tarshish. So here we have in Chronicles gives a little bit more context behind the ultimate why, behind why those ships were broken and why they weren't able to use them to pursue the enterprise that they sought. So it was almost like you were told or warned about your alliance with Ahab, but now you go in and ally yourself with his son, who pretty much followed the same example as his father. And how could you expect anything to work from that? Right? So peace, for the sake of peace, isn't enough. Right? Peace can only be really maintained unless you have righteousness in it. You know, it's like a be a lesson we learn even from Josaphat and all his righteousness that he's done. Right? But him having this flaw here when it comes to working with the Northern Kingdom, which is a good thing, but how he went about doing it wasn't a good thing. Hence the judgment that came upon him for trying to ally himself with Ahab and with his son, and the judgment that came because of it, and because of how they were as kings. But yeah, that was Second Chronicles chapter 20. I read from 31 down to 37. I see you, and that's going to link up with verses 48 and 49. 1 Kings 22, 48 and 49. Mm-hmm.
Right. So also you can see it was a custom for them to go look for gold in that area. So it was pretty much part of their gold exploration, right? Because Solomon did the same thing in First Kings chapter 9, 26 to 28. First Kings chapter 9, 26 to 28. I'll read it real fast. And it says, and King Solomon made a navy of ships in Isyanberger, which is besides Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. And Aram sent in the navy in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. See, it was like the same type of agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It says, verse 28, and they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold 420 talents and brought it to King Solomon. So that region was known for that, and they had the custom of going to such land and go get gold over there, gold exploration, gold search. Ophir.
Come. So now, it's Chronicles still. Oops. So back in 1 Kings 22, in verse 50, it says, and Joseph had slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father. And it says, and Jehoram, his son, reigned in his stead. Then back in verse 51 now, it says, Ahaziah, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel and Samaria the 17th year of Josaphat, king of Judah, right? So 32 years, right? It was the fourth year after Ahab's reign started. So from that to 17, right? That's what? 11 years? No, 13 years. So that's at the time that pretty much Ahab and Josaphat reigned during the same time period. So once again, reigned over Israel and Samaria the 17th year of Josaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 2 years over Israel. So anytime you see that short reign time period, whether it be a northern or a southern kingdom, you already know to expect something not too good from this. And keep in mind, right, when we read through Kings and Chronicles, sometimes it'll zoom in and talk about something very specific for a certain time period. And then other times it'll just jump out and kind of give an overview, and kind of give like, a spans of time. Then it might talk about, during this reign, these things happen. That's kind of what we're doing right here, where we're getting like an overview of Josaphat and now Ahaziah, the one who came after Ahab. Because with that 2-year reign, now we got that verse that we always talk about that we look forward to, for good or for bad, where it says, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord. It says, and walked in the way of his father, which is Ahab, and in the way of his mother. So, double time, right? So now he's walking in the ways of not only of King Ahab, but also Jezebel. And the way of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, right? Which we already touched on that back in 1 Kings 14. For he served Baal and worshipped him and provoked him to anger Yahweh of Israel, according to all that his father had done. So keep that in mind when we get, which we know we're ending 1 Kings here, but when we get into 2 Kings, keep that in mind as we go back to him and those that come after him, because remember, this is part of the Most High's judgment on Ahab, where he said, I'm going to give you peace during your days, King Ahab, because at least you humbled yourself in this regard after I gave you that judgment. But during your son's reign, he's going to feel it. And he already knew in his foreknowledge just the type of spirit that his son would have and how he would go about reigning. And hence we see here now the evidence of that, his short reign and the evil that he did. And we'll see whoever comes after him as we go forward. But I think I saw a hand up.
Yeah. It's 1 Kings 10:22.
What's that link with?
Still 48. Actually, so we can start at 21. It shows that this, even Solomon got so much gold. Every 3 years, they would travel, bring gold, not just gold, but they would bring silver as well. even the cup that Solomon was drinking, and it had what was made up with gold. This cat wasn't playing around. It was gold. It was a gold cat.
And if you guys wanted this too, which I didn't have pulled up originally, but I guess if it helps. So this is in the Zondervan. It's kind of like a Bible atlas. It's like a useful tool to help complement the scriptures. You know, the scriptures are the key tool you want to have when you teach, but to kind of get background knowledge on certain things in the Bible, Bible dictionary is useful, but just be mindful of it because you do find bones in there when you go in there from time to time. But now this is on page 424 in the Zondervan. Since we're talking about it.
Yes, 1 Kings 10:22. Let me read it. It says, "For the kings had a sea of navy of Tarshish with the navy of Aram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks." Yeah, play it right. And in verse 21, it tells you that, you know, the cup that he used to drink in was made of gold.
So that's 1 Kings 10:21 and 22.
Right.
Right. So this is Ophir, right? Because this comes up in other places too. References made to Ophir, like we read in Isaiah 13, where it talks about a man being made more precious than gold, even the gold of Ophir, right? So, like we just read, we're going to see some references to that. But let's see what else they have to say about this place. It says the names in the table of the nations, Genesis chapter 10. So it's talking about the son of Joktan, which this isn't the one we want. We want number 2. So it's number 2, the land occupied by the descendants of Ophir. It says in 1 Kings 9 and 28, it is mentioned as a source of much gold. Cross-reference chapter 2 and 11 and verse 12. Ophir in Arabia was not only the source of gold, but it may have been a way station for the ships of Tarshish coming westward from India. It says, if the apes, ivory, and peacocks, and it references what you just read, to say nothing of the almug trees, which is 1 Kings 10, 11, and 12, had to come from India. These large ships, which made the round trip once in 3 years, 1 Kings 10:22, could have voyaged from the neighborhood of Goa on the east coast of India to Ophir and thence up the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba to Ezion Geber, in references 1 Kings 9:26, keeping in sight or nearly in sight of land all of the way. Ophir was famous for its gold from very early days. And makes references to Job 22 and 24, as well as Job 28 and 16. Okay. So if you want to get that added detail, we get to people and places, right?
So now, you know, no wonder Esau is running after gold now. So as we were running after gold. And it tells you in Solomon time, silver wasn't mean much. But everything was pretty much gold.
Very rich in silver and gold, right? And even Esau tried to offset gold with the platinum, introducing of platinum, right? And talking about platinum, right? But it just didn't stick like that.
Yeah, that died up for a little while, going rappers with platinum chains and what's that?
Yeah, it was that pretty much trying to subvert the gold and silver, and even with the music industry, right? Like you said, with the platinum chains, then if you sell so many records, right? Say you go gold, you sell a certain amount, right? You go sell a little bit more, you get platinum. You go more, you go diamond, right? So they try to say, oh, gold, don't worry about gold. All the while, Esau's like,
you keep gold. Next thing you know, niggas will start getting gold and snatch it. You don't want them to get all the gold, especially they have money to buy. Let's push platinum.
And let's keep them from realizing that they themselves are the gold of gold,
right?
Which we got to make sure we keep them keep their minds
more than gold,
right? Was what did Jeremiah say in Lamentations? How is the It's metaphorical, right? talking about us. How has the gold become dim? Right?
Shine it up.
We got little too much tarnish on us.
Heavy burden.
Yes, indeed. But I mean, all this ties back to the same thing. We're always talking about power when it comes to inheritance and wealth, like in which physical wealth and then how that translates into spiritual wealth. Like that's kind of an underlying theme we see throughout the scriptures, right? Whereas if you take one and give it more importance than the other, the physical over the spiritual, you will indeed lose the physical. It's only a matter of time. For our people, firstly, and even for these other nations, like we talked about, who had their time to rule, we see how they've fallen out of the way. All right, so we've come to an end here. But if you want to, and I quoted that thing in the Zonovan, but the verse I was just referring to, you can just write it down. But it's Lamentations chapter 4. I'll just read verses 1 and 2 to kind of end on that note since we're talking about gold and gold trade and gold. So this is Lamentations 4 and 1. It says, how has the gold become dim? How has the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. And it says in verse 2, the precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold, how are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter. You see the explanation point. Almost indirectly, also making an indirect connect with what you were reading earlier in Jeremiah 18, as far as the doesn't the potter have the decision to make the clay how he sees fit? Can't the Most High make Israel the way he sees fit, right? All right, so we'll make an end here, Yasha Allah. For next week, we're going back to New Testament, which should be James chapters 4 and 5, since before we read 2 and 3. So James 4 and 5 is going to be next week, the 16th of March. And then most times we'll see you guys later on this evening, which we know when the sun goes down today, we'll be in the 13th new moon. And then when it comes to changing times and laws, they're going to spring forward, as they say, right? They say spring forward, fall back. So we're getting close to the spring season. They add on an extra hour, right? So by the time you come into the morning, it won't be 3 o'clock, it'll be 4 o'clock. Or if it's 4 o'clock, it'll be 5 o'clock, right? So that the sunrise and sunset can be within a certain time span. So right now, sundown's been around 6 o'clock, right? It's gotten to 6 o'clock as we get closer to the spring. But now it's gonna make a jump to around 7 o'clock, and then keep going, minute by minute as the days go ahead. All right. So most of us will see everybody for the new moon this evening, the 13th month we had this year in particular, just to make sure. We always want to make sure we add on the 13th month every so often to make sure the holidays always align with the natural seasons. Since our holidays, each one is supposed to pretty much take place within a different season. Where we got the Passover taking place in the spring, the Pentecost taking place in the summer, the Tabernacle is taking place in the fall or autumn, and the dedication, the latest one added as far as major holy days, taking place in the winter. So most of us will see everybody latest eating for that. Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. Keep it holy to the best of your ability, obviously. Hope everybody was edified with today's lesson. And with that, we'll do the closing prayers. We'll say Shar Shabbat Wa Manakha Tawa, which just means good afternoon. So let's do the closing prayers. Yeah, just said that. Like, yeah. So I'm gonna get the door biblical shot. Oh, and before we do, my apologies. Gotta do the housekeeping real quick. So the number to reach us at is here. So feel free to call into our teleconference every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. at this number you see, 667-770-1085. Conference code 521455 to listen in by phone. And you want to watch us by on your phone or on your laptop or desktop computer, you can go here, which is profitabletalks.com at the same time, and then just sign with a Google account, preferably, or whatever account you may have, to join us on the Zoom web link, which we have during the same time, Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. And you want to make donations to our school, right, for tithing or for holy days or for free will offerings. Our website, our address is 3826B Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19140. And as you see there, the spelling of our school, which is Ha Yashar Kana, spelled that way. If you make out a check or money order to us, just make sure you spell it out the same way you see there in the scrolling marquee in the phonetic Hebrew. And if you wanted to donate over the web, we have a PayPal, which is paypal.me/HYK12, as well as Ha Kanas on Cash App. And always remember to like and share the video with others so they can be edified as well when it comes to the truth of God in Christ by way of the Holy Spirit. Speaking to, like we touched on earlier, the main things, who we are as a people, why we're in a lower state, and what we need to do to get out of it. So I'll say a Shar Shabbat once again, Wa Manakah Tawab, happy Sabbath and good afternoon, and now we'll do the closing prayers. Baraka Fiyahawa by Shimi Hawashai, Asharan Fananawa, Poria Gabin Thwada Aman. La Yahawa by Shimi Hawashai, Yashra. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. Hamagwa, Pargiwa, Jerusalem, stand face Jerusalem. Yahweh Basham Yahushai Babakushai Shemai Lanawe Aita Yen Yen Aita Shalak Mike Allah Well Alahayim Tazwadakim La Shemar Ayu Barak Rabha Magan Wakhaziyak Banya Yash Allah Washalak Lanawe Rabiim Kakamad Rabiim Da'ait Rabiim Bayanad Rabiim Sabalanwath Rabiim Mamawan Rabiim Aqua Rabiim Mahabiim Rabiim Haganad Rochanaya Wasalak Kau Katayamnawe La Akim Wa Akiwat Wayash Alet Them Yed Wawalam Basham Yahushai the what Aman. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins. For the brothers, sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai Barak Nawe Wayash Ale Wabat Yasaparim Shema Yashrile Yahweh Elohai Nawe Yahweh Akhe. English translation, we said Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us in Israel in the house of books or the school. And then we said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. So with that, we'll say Ashar Shabbat once again. Happy Sabbath. Malachi Tawab. Good afternoon. Most as we'll talk to everybody this evening for the 13th New Moon service. So enjoy the rest of your Sabbath, everybody.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Brother